Any objections to starting with the Pledge of Allegiance?
No, not at all.
I know. Good.
No, we're supposed to be doing it.
No, we good.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag, to the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for that suggestion. Okay, so we have our minutes from the last meeting. If you wanna look over those and see if there's any suggestions. And then I did briefly just kinda wanna touch base, I know we tabled the minutes from last time, and my concern is that Fred is not back until next Wednesday, which is after we've presented,
Yeah, I think we can.
and can we
I think we can bring them back and move forward.
move forward? Okay,
Absolutely.
okay, so then let's also look at the minutes.
copy?
Did you not get one?
I put it on top of your stuff, Dan,
Oh,
so
yeah.
I probably got all mixed up.
Oh,
I
it looks like it's
apologize.
right
Yeah,
there.
Cause there was another packet
There was only
right
one.
here too.
No,
No, that's not it. Oh, that's the 27 minutes.
here, Dan, I don't need them. I got it
Oh,
right
here, you
there.
wanna review?
So we'll
Thank you.
review the
Thank you.
27th and the 29th again.
Dan, did you get one of these, like the big packet?
Yeah,
that was in here tonight?
Yeah, he's
Okay,
the one that
alright,
brought
cool,
it to us.
Alright, awesome.
Does it take them long to read? I can come back.
You can come back.
There's quite a few pages. I wanted to make sure I had it covered, so if there's any
Okay.
amendments, let me know. I
Are
can.
your minutes available online?
As soon as they're approved, I send them to the SAU and they.
They put them online, so they've been doing that.
Mhm.
But you're familiar with when they have to be available? Yeah. It's not a long period of time.
It is not. So, just to explain, Wednesday night, the minutes were tabled for clarification. So, I had the rough draft, but they were not approved, so.
That rough draft is still public knowledge.
Well, you don't have to post it,
Oh, no, you don't have to
but
post
you
it.
can.
But what I'm getting at is.
They were
if you-
available, yes.
If you were sitting there scribbling down the minutes,
Mhm.
and somebody came into your office the next day and said, under the right to know law, I wanna see your notes on the minutes, that's legal, I've done that,
They were available.
okay?
I had them all
I'm
typed up,
I
Jim.
the only thing I care about is you guys don't get tangled up with some rules or something.
Thank you.
Minutes don't even have to be approved.
So I type them, I send them to the chair, she reviews them, makes any changes, and then I,
It's a good thing to have them approved, but I mean, I don't think they legally have to be approved, they just have to be done.
interesting.
Now we have to go back and reapprove all the minutes that are sealed. That happened.
Well,
Or
you
seal
can't
the
seal,
perfect surely.
you can't seal something forever. I mean, it gets to a point where sealing minutes of some event makes no sense because that happened in 1992.
Well, now we gotta go back and unseal them if they don't make sense.
Okay, we're gonna move, is everyone a chance to review?
Yeah.
Okay, so first let's look at the minutes from 11:29, and I'd be looking for a motion one way or the other.
Make a motion to accept the minutes from 11:29.
Do I have a second?
Yes, I second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Right, the minutes are accepted as written. Now at the 11:27 minutes that we had tabled. Let's accept a motion.
I move to accept the minutes from 11:29,
27.
27,
Yeah, we just did the 29 ones.
11:27. Do you, was it the 27th we met?
Yeah.
Monday.
Oh, today's
This is
the
our
first.
third, it's our
Yeah.
third meeting of the week. I'm looking for a
How
second.
exciting.
Seconded by Jeff. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye. There's
All
one
those opposed?
abstention.
One abstention. And the minutes will be accepted as read. Okay, moving forward, do we have any new questions from the last meeting? That to the school board or anything that needs to be reviewed, any answers?
How can I get this to?
The screen's on, so if you plug the HDMI into your computer, it should.
Oh, where's the?
Yeah.
There we go. Just wanted to clarify a couple of things. I know there was some concerns with the public and Tom as well. Whenever it came to removal of therapists and so there's a list of qualified examiners.
And then Jesus,
Can we like
Nope.
turn that? There's a
well,
glare.
the light,
Or
if you
do I-
turn that light off, the switch behind the door, it'll shut off the main lights. Yep.
Green one?
Better.
Okay, so list of qualified examiners to, and the assessments required. As you can see, psychologist is on there, as well as associated school psychologist. Psychologist is not the same as school psychologist, but there's a redundancy of people who can assess for the same, from academic performance, adaptive behavior, and the list goes on.
And then just what website are we looking at? Where is this from?
Oh, this is the Legal Institute, but I can definitely go into the. I mean,
just-
the other one is just plain text. But if you want me to go into the plain
yeah,
text,
no, I was just wondering.
here's yeah,
Just
it's
wanted to know where it was.
New Hampshire Code Administrative Regulation Education 1107.04. Qualified examiners. And so I just wanted to clarify that services are not being removed when we say that positions. It's just when you have, for example, for academic performance, when you have certified educators, counselors, psychologists, and we have about 60% of the list in there. And so the list goes on. You will also see that in some cases, you'll see, for example, you will notice that you will have academic performance. So this list will tell you this column here will tell you what exactly is the assessment required, which is the assessment that usually the school engages in order for them to be able to either qualify a student based on an evaluation or not. We have under occupational therapist, it was not proposed to remove the occupational therapist, but you will see that the occupational therapist supplements the role of a physical therapist. And so I just wanted to kind of clarify there. So services are not being removed. I know there's a lot of talk around town and even in here there's a lot of misconception. Services will not be removed. You cannot remove the services. What will be removed, or in this case what will be proposed for removal, is the redundancy. When you have about 4 or 5 that do the exact same thing for the assessment, or they will assist in the IEPs. And so again, every single one that has a psychologist, for the most part, maybe for the exception of one, they all have guidance counselors, certified educators, and this contains the whole list. This is the list that's also in the Code of Federal Regulations. I just wanted to point that out. I know there was that's exactly what was said in the last meeting. So when we say that they are required, services are required. Positions, not exactly. And here's a list of what we call the New Hampshire revised statutes that fulfill the federal requirement. These are optional services. You have school health services, which in this case would be the physical therapist. Nurses, physicians are different. You also have guidance counselors and psychologists as optional services. I know somebody at some point mentioned it was a mandate. Services are mandated. Psychology, or having a psychologist on staff, is very different than providing services with students with disabilities. Wanted to clarify a couple of things this is once we start going over the,
Okay.
somebody said about, I know there was misconceptions about who's going to run the school, who's not. I just wanted to point this out. This will be in the PowerPoint in the presentation. Here it is. And it basically tells us that school districts should not be required to have a superintendent. Again, I chose the website just because the text is a little bit neater than the Kleber font that they had. But you can always obviously go to the actual, if the internet worked, you could always go to the statute and regulation. Now this is the annotated version. There's unannotated, I believe the 2023 and the 2024. And so, but this is the most current that is annotated, accepted by the legislative body here in New Hampshire. So, I don't know if there's any confusion on the things that we voted on. I know there were things, like I said about whether or not it was a matter of was it voted on, was it not voted on. Again, this is the New Hampshire guide. It has the same table. New Hampshire Guide to the Standards of Education of Children with Disabilities. And so the research was done, because the last thing I want is for there to be confusion saying that we're removing services or we're proposing to remove services. And again, services versus having multiple qualified professionals to fulfill those services are very different.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
So,
is there other
Good.
questions or follow-ups on anything that we had?
Tom, do you have any questions?
No.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, so next on the agenda, I have not had a chance to review draft 3 yet. I don't know.
Oh, none of us have.
Okay,
I did see the overall. I'm a little confused. Maybe, I don't know who would clarify. I know that usually the redundancy of saying if we would have met over there is very different. But yeah, if you look at the draft 3, revenue projections, and I don't know what you would call this, the summary? Would this be the summary?
Should we label it?
Well, it says final proposal budget, and that's why I was confused, because it said final proposal.
You know, Jesus, I have not had a chance to even look through this with myself, and actually, the board will be looking and going through it on Monday.
Correct.
So I encourage this committee to actually come and be at that meeting when we go through the draft 3 for our first time too.
okay.
So the only thing that I had a concern about is if you look at the draft 2, the general fund budget for fiscal year 25, at the very bottom where it says general fund, it's $20,374,458, and yet the summary says that there's a reduction. But if you look at draft 3, it is at $22,584,425. I can't see the.
Isn't that the revenue projection? That's just revenue, right?
Yes. That is
So we're
the
making more
That's-
revenue. This is all funds put together.
Correct.
This is, now this is assuming that, this is calculating the tax increase, correct?
We never got a copy of that.
We never,
We never got a copy of the tax revenue or the impact of the town.
yeah, that's why I'm a little confused
New
about it.
Ipswich or Greenville, but the last packet we got for our second draft, we did receive that stuff. But we didn't receive one on this one.
Yeah, cause I'm wondering if this number will go up.
Absolutely it will.
This are the top 8, we are in the top 8 local tax, rate in the state of New Hampshire with a student population of 880 students. We are the top 8 out of 108 towns. And so I'm just wondering whether or not it included that projection of assuming that this number would be increased.
Are we accepting comments at this time? We usually wait until the end of the meeting to have comments from,
I can just
Become
put a
committee.
comment that you might want.
okay,
You know, I'm not.
Go ahead.
It's not argumentative or anything like that. The thing you need to be aware of when you're calculating all this is all the assessments are gonna change next year. Right now, our properties are assessed at 64% of market value. They're gonna go to 100%.
oh boy.
That doesn't mean you're gonna pay more taxes, that just means there's two numbers equal the tax rate. You know, how much value you have and how much money is needed, so you play with those two numbers.
So actually, that rate is gonna go down, because the
The rate
assessed
could go
value
down
goes-
and your tax bill could go up
Yeah, yeah,
exponentially, okay,
Yeah.
I just want you to be aware of that, that's all.
Well,
so
Okay.
it's
Not
just a
trying to
funky,
interrupt.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
above
yeah, let's
my
assume
pay
that.
grade. I don't.
And mine too.
And if
Uh-uh.
you need,
That's
if you
good
need
information.
information about how
I
much
do.
assessed property value we have, you can come to the Board of Assessors and be happy to give it to you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so the tax revenue, we did receive a sheet on the last, actually on 11/20 of 23 for the tax revenue for New Ipswich and Greenville. But we did not receive a tax rate increase sheet for the new proposed, draft 3 budget. But New Ipswich municipal was gonna be 9.6 and local ed was 6.5. Also on this sheet, on 11/20, they never included the town of Greenville.
Because those weren't set yet.
Yeah, they haven't
They
set.
haven't come in yet.
I don't even have.
So
them
if
set.
New Ipswich is 9.6 on the last draft 2 budget, and the budget has increased, so you're probably looking, and I'm just hypothetical, you're probably knocking around almost 11%.
I think budget draft 3 decreased.
It went from 3.1 to 2.3. Yes.
Yeah. That's it.
I mean, I haven't had time to go through it, but
Yeah, when did we get it? Yesterday?
yeah, we just got it yesterday.
Yeah.
So let's table the draft 3 because we need to have time to look at it.
Yeah, I agree.
We aren't just guessing. So we aren't just guessing.
I have a question on draft 3.
Yes.
It has general fund at 20,222,000. Then total all funds is 21,438,000. All is that? Which one is the actual number proposed? 'Cause if you look at draft 2, total at 20,374,000 is.
So you know what, Jeff, I would recommend you, talk to our business administrator. Should be more than happy to go through it, and we will also be going through it on Monday night too. But if you wanna get ahead of it, please absolutely reach out and,
Yeah, do you want to send her an email?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
I have her email.
If not, reach out
Or
Either
call,
Julie or I will say
stop
it.
by,
Yeah, you can
stop by, they'll be more than happy to talk to you.
So my question about draft 3 is, why did it come out so fast?
They probably listened to your last recommendations, and then they said we'd change.
I will tell you, the night
But
that.
But again, but we don't make the changes
Wait.
to the recommendations.
Well,
I
we
mean,
report
I mean, we
back.
can recommend to the
Because the
board.
December 18th was actually public on the last meeting. You stated December 18th, we'll review draft 3, but draft 3 came out.
No,
Like-
December 18th, we have to vote on the final budget. But what happened was the night, remember you guys were meeting at the SAU, we had to leave the meeting because we had a regularly scheduled board meeting. The board requested that the administration go back, sharpen their pencils, and come back to the board with a revised budget. This is what this is. This is what you're seeing.
So this is their final proposed.
No.
Keeps
This-
changing.
This will be discussed by the board. There's actually suggestions and recommendations for further cuts versus teachers, and all this will be discussed on Monday night. So, no, the final presentation of the budget to be voted on will be December 18th.
Okay.
So, hopefully
And
that's,
it, okay,
hopefully
so,
that's.
and it sounds like there
helpful.
could be many, I guess,
So-
I did say draft 3, but there could be draft 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Would it be fair to say that, to assume that there will be a draft 4?
Yes, because if the board makes changes to the recommendations on Monday night, we'd have to have a draft 4.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's no warrant articles here, so it may increase again with the, there might be warrant articles as well. And the insurance went up, so I don't know if that's gonna make any difference.
Health insurance went up 9.1%.
Yeah, and they were planning on 7.
I think
Okay. Any other questions about
I
the
think,
draft 3?
I think the summary here kind of answers my question.
Okay.
If we look right at the all funds at the bottom, proposed for 24 and then
Oh,
proposed
yeah.
for 25. So I think that
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
pretty much.
Can you
This is, I should have
Well,
told everybody to go ahead and close their eyes first. Yeah, I agree.
Just this
I
number right here.
I got here early so I get a seat. There's nobody here.
I was just wondering which one we were
I
comparing.
think,
You know,
I think I scared them. I'm not a
There's
good looking
lot
man, I'll
of-
tell you
There's a lot
what.
of town stuff going on
we have
today.
this.
Yeah, there's a lot of games and stuff.
There's
Christmas tree
You know,
lighting.
there's a
this
Christmas
number
tree
here,
lighting,
sub-
Santa's at the elementary
awesome.
school,
The
there's
subtotals up here.
games at the high
Totals,
school.
actually.
Oh,
Right.
it does.
Yep.
All funds,
Yep.
that's,
Okay, so the next thing we have,
I had the same question.
Jesus had asked about, 3 goals that for the presentation that he wants to include, like what were our 3 goals. And so that would be a good time, maybe we could talk about that. That we could present to the board as what our goals were in this whole process.
Well, drive, finding efficiencies. That could be one.
So highlighting areas where we can,
Well, it's important to understand that we're not coming in with just the idea that we just want to slash everything. I mean, that's not the goal. The goal is it's in the best interest. It's a delicate interest between the town, because given the tax rates, the reality is our veterans won't be able to pay their taxes. A lot of them, like Dan, is on a fixed income as a disabled veteran, and the reality is if it continues to increase further in property valuations, and even if you can assume that the local tax rate is going to go down for education or whatever it is, the odds are is it's going to come to the point where it becomes unbearable. And so, and it's not just the veterans, but we have a lot of elderly folk around, and I think it should be time to be a little bit considerate about that. And so there is a delicate balance between, like we want to have the kids' interest, but having the kids' interest is having a functional school that performs efficiently, because if anything, the youth need structure. And when we don't provide them with structure, it becomes chaotic. I've heard only rumors.
and I think we all have. And so I think I didn't come in with the interest of bringing an agenda to the table, trying to fix the school. I think that's up to the board to do that. I hope one day I'll be able to, but the reality is, I think it's important to take that into consideration. I think it's important for us to have a goal that balances the students' interests, the community at hand, and provides a structure and stability. It's not just a matter of keep on increasing when you have dysfunctioning schools and low performances.
And kind of like piggyback on that is, it was my initial like reason at the last minute to say, hey, I'll join. Was to find that balance, because I felt like the school was crushing the community. So even from the perspective of the town, the municipal portion, it's out of whack, and we can't add the things that we would need to add, like because of these big hits continually coming, and like there's got to be another way to find a balance and to not crush the community, really. Like it just feels crushing. I've heard that fixed income aspect too, so we're really trying hard as a town to look at it, and I'm gonna propose the same challenge to the town government as I did to the school board, and say, hey, can we cut this by 10%? The same thing, because I know it's gonna hurt, and we're hurting in many ways, and we have to find a way to make it all work and work together. School board, select board, like the town and the school has to actually realize their bigger roles in the community, and what we're doing impacts everybody. So.
And just as a side note, we know the economy is not the greatest. So when you go to the grocery store and you spend $500 on groceries, and you're bringing out less bags than you would have, 2 years ago at $300, the economy is not the greatest. The price of oil just at home heating is $3.79 a gallon. And I actually take care of an 80-year-old gentleman. I'm his caretaker. I take care of him daily, and he's on a fixed income of $2,022 Social Security. His tax bill alone this year is $6,045. It's rough. It's just rough.
And if we're ever going to come to the realization that if we want to bring in business to the town, these tax rates are scary. There's no one that's going to want to. I mean, we've been lucky that we have, people who grew up in New Ipswich and live here, and they want to call this home. But we have those same people are hurting, and it's like it's not sustainable at some point. Call me callous, but I look at needs very different. It's not a wish list. Needs are something that it's a means of survival. And so I think it's essential to look at the whole perspective of how do we approach things in a manner that they can balance it out and provide that efficiency. As a teacher, I can tell you that I feel very confident that if you provide structure, there will be success. The majority of the classes that fail, in my experience, are teachers who lack classroom management. They could be great teachers, but if you don't have classroom management, I guarantee you no one's going to succeed in that class. And so I think it's important that we provide the structure, and it all starts at the top. One thing that we will be, at some point talking about is the accounts payable and payroll. Have their roles and responsibilities here. When you have a stack this big of roles and responsibilities for a town that's less than 6,000, and when you have a student population of 880, I see this as a problem. Huge problem, but that's just my opinion. I don't reflect the board's opinion here or anyone else. I just see that, you know, there's a reason why there's only one CEO in a company. You don't have 5 or 6. That's why you don't have assistant executives. You don't have 10, because it creates redundancy. It creates problems.
So how can you wrap that into a goal?
Yeah.
Like, what's the?
Well, that's a
goal
good question,
focus?
because
Yeah.
that's what I want. Because
Yeah.
when I write it down, I'll be honest, I don't sound pleasant.
My personal
Yeah, I will be very honest
My
with you.
personal goal is, if salaries are almost 82% of the budget, or roughly around 82%, is, I think that people are getting overpaid. If you wanna pay the high school teacher, a high school principal at $198,000 salary,
I think
when?
that was vice principal and principal.
Well,
Yeah,
Is that-
it's a.
Well,
It's a little confusing.
Right,
It's
that's
broken
where I
out.
think we
And
want
maybe
to
that's where the
Yeah, combined.
confusion is.
be. Right.
Cause all I'm seeing is high school principal, $198,000. So my take is that person make $198,000?
Yeah, no, I think that was
No.
one of the things that we had discovered,
Yeah.
is that we think that that's that's
So,
2
the last-
positions there.
Dan, if it helps you, the last person that was reported by the DOE, and I have the printout here, was a previous principal that was before
Miss,
the current
she was
principal in
elementary.
Messina.
Mhm.
That person was at almost 96,000, and it's wow. That's just I mean, when you're only about 20,000,
Sorry.
you know, in difference. Yet, when we look at that, at least for me, when I see that, and
Right.
and we have people saying, well, teachers don't get paid enough. Man, you could have taken off $1,000, given $1,000 increase everywhere, and that person would have still been in a comfortable 80.
Okay, but talk about structure and
Yeah.
let's
I agree,
focus on
structure.
the goal.
So let's think about a goal here.
Yeah.
Because I'll be honest, I would need somebody who has a more softer tone in order for them to. Because I sound very.
Okay, so what we talked about, what I hear is efficiency. That's honestly what, I mean, that's the biggest word that I've heard thrown around from this committee, is that making sure that, like, our role has been to look at the budget and to see where we think the school could work more efficiently, and if,
Would you agree that we looked at the budget objectively? We didn't bring in feelings into it. We didn't see it with a view of, you know, at least for numbers. I think it's important to see things objectively. You know, where they stand versus where we look at where they stand and how they're utilized versus how exactly, like, what's the intent behind it. Because you can have a great intent and you can have a failing program. And that's, unfortunately, that's, in my perspective, that's what I see. I see a great intent with public education, and it's not just here, it's everywhere in the United States. Great intentions behind education, public education, but everywhere across the U.S. In Oregon, 2 schools shutting down, deficits of 75 million, 30 million. You have Wisconsin, who's completely shutting down their school, their whole district, because student population, everybody has moved out. They're under a deficit. And
Well,
so,
and it's almost like you hear it from even the group that came in the other night, where some people will like to continue to throw more money at it as though that's the answer, but it's not. You know, then we look at the performance being poor of our schools. Why are you going to reward, you know, poor performance? Like, we gotta find a different path.
Yeah, that's my stance.
Money doesn't fix anything.
no, the best paid district
It's
in the
America.
United States is New York City. That's the one that receives the most funds. And they're the biggest, and they're the most failing.
So he had, so your first one was finding efficiencies. Jesus said structure equals success. So I don't know if he wants to expound on that.
Structure, yeah, absolutely.
so just listening, kind of what I'm hearing is something along the lines of, like, as a committee, our goal has been to look objectively at the budget to determine or to find inefficiencies in order for our school district to not only succeed but thrive in these tough economic times.
It's very good.
Is that,
Yeah.
did you get that? 'Cause, I mean, it's gone now, so.
Oh no! Don't tell me that. Oh my
You
goodness!
are so eloquent.
I like
Sabrina.
Oh, yeah.
I need to get the timestamp so I can watch it on YouTube.
Run that by me one more time.
Oh my goodness, that's why it's gone.
It's okay. The good thing is it's being recorded, so.
Okay, perfect.
At least you
So
guys
it was
can all
something
speak
about-
The moment was
at the same time.
As a
captured.
committee, our goal was to take an
Stuttering
objective look at the budget, find inefficiencies in order for our students in our school district to not only succeed, but to thrive in this challenging economic environment. Okay. The next thing on our agenda is to name our presenter. Jesus has done a great job. Well, we haven't seen it yet, but I'm assuming he's done a very thorough job of coming up with our presentation. And I mean, it's kind of my mind. He will know the flow of it. I mean, I guess that's my thought. Is unless somebody else is feeling very strongly that they would like to present.
I'll make a motion to have Jesus present.
Okay, Dan makes a motion.
Second.
Do we second this?
Yeah, why not?
Okay. All those in favor say of Jesus presenting, say aye. All those opposed? Jesus will be our presenter. Congratulations.
Oh,
We didn't even
I'm
ask
so
you-
thrilled.
You'll probably shoot yourself as soon as you leave.
We didn't even ask you if you'd be willing to, so there we go. Okay. So, did I skip over the voting? I did.
Voting and tabling.
You gotta keep me on task here. So we did have a couple of tabled items from last week. Number 3 and number 13, and we also have 3 new items that were emailed to me. So let me pull this up.
There may have been a fourth one that I sent. Oh no, the goals was one of them. Yeah.
Yeah, the goals,
So,
okay.
yeah.
So let me pull this up. So,
And I didn't email this, but is that like the Greenville New Ipswich rep, like select board reps on the ABC?
I did not put that on there, but okay, yep. I forgot about that. So we actually have a 28th. This list just keeps growing. To propose.
Sorry, I should have emailed it after the meeting.
And it's from the school board, right? A school board.
No, the select
just
boards,
The
the Greenville and
the
New
select
Ipswich
board.
select boards.
It's a select board member.
As voting members of the ABC.
Okay, to propose that New Ipswich and Greenville each have a select board member on the ABC. So, table items, number 3, we had tabled this one, the removal of accounts payable and payroll salary combined and add requirements to the business administration duties. So that was the one that we had tabled because we didn't have enough information. It sounds like Jesus has gotten the job descriptions.
I got the
Job descriptions.
job descriptions. It seems that the role and responsibility does belong to the oversight to the business administrator, and it's common everywhere. Having someone strictly for payroll and accounts, receivable or payable, it's redundant. We've seen that numbers just get lost, and the reality is, given the size of the district, given how many employees, and the student population, I don't think it would be beneficial. If anything, it's just redundant. You're just handing off tasks to someone else.
Now, is that like legislated that it has to be that way though?
No.
Because I know with the town you can't have the same person accepting money and writing
Right.
checks.
Well, that's
You are
a
correct.
business practice, yeah.
Yeah, so
Well,
it's just,
But is
that
it law
doesn't-
though?
But that doesn't mean that, you know.
Because that is the administrative duty of the business administrator according to the job description. And like at the end, regardless
or
of
is the
who's
business
managing.
administrator to oversee those two
No, the
roles?
business administrator already oversees them. That was the duty of the business administrator.
I'm just not familiar with the school RSA structure and if that's even possible to take out, cause I know for us it wouldn't be, we need those two separated roles.
Checks and balances, you can't
Yeah.
have one person in charge of writing and,
I'm sorry, you can't have one
you
person.
can't have one person in charge of writing the checks and receiving the payments.
I'm gonna.
Well, that's exactly what it is.
I'm gonna recognize Jim quickly because I
Yes.
think
This
he
is-
has vast experience in this.
I'm gonna put this in the town perspective, because the budget law is the same for the school as it is for the town. There's no difference, but the school has other laws in effect, of course. I mean, the treasurer is the one who signs the checks. So, in the town, for example, there's a manifest, one for payroll, one for accounts payable. Those are signed off by the selectmen, so the school board, and that's a request to the treasurer to issue the checks. And they have something similar there. So you wanna know the truth, Roger signs the checks.
Yes, yes.
Right, Roger Sawmill.
Huh?
Yeah, Roger Sawmill, yep.
Yeah, and you're right. There has to be some accountability of the money coming in and money going out, but, I mean, on a day-to-day basis, it's the treasurer who takes money in.
Yeah, well,
And
here,
the treasurer takes money in and dispenses it upon legal orders from the board.
that is the official title. The official title is accounts payable and accounts receivable master.
Yeah, it's just different terms for this office.
Oh,
This-
yeah.
Yeah, treasurer.
No, and that's the same. It's same thing for payroll. Under the administration, the business administrator is the one who is part of the qualifications is having a business degree, finance, or accounting. I mean, that's their main. Hence, if you were to branch off anything else from there, that would be the oversight.
And I just say at one point, the accounting for a town and a school is different than a business. It's modified accrual, it's totally different. And you can see that in towns that can't figure out their tax rate, okay? But they get all screwed up with the accounting. It's a modified accrual accounting system. So there are differences, and then there's things that play into it. Municipal budget law and finance law. There's things you can and cannot do with money, even though you've got a big pile of it sitting here. For example, you have a program that takes in a ton of money, and you don't have a revolving fund. And now you need to spend more money to keep the program going, but it's working good, and you're taking the money, you can't do it. You can only spend what the voters said you could spend.
So this is a singular.
Yes,
Yeah.
I have the payroll here. If you want to see the
It's written
yeah.
up singular.
Payroll is separate. That is the singular position right there, and this is another one, which is the payroll, which is the ones that were
And these are both included.
absolutely
Yeah.
they're over here. They're part of the duties. As a matter of fact, they're listed under they're listed under the ones that are being supervised.
Now, are you guys familiar with the workload and how it became to be 3 people versus?
It has been this way for as long as I can remember.
Yep.
We had, one person doing accounts payable and receivables, and one person doing payroll, and one, overseeing
Anyone have the so-
back our business.
And they're all full-time positions.
Yes.
I mean, you can see.
highlighted
the,
where
in that
can
audit,
see that.
when one person was out, there wasn't enough manpower to go to take up the slack until she got back. But it wasn't a problem either.
Yeah.
And I think that's when you have more people performing the same duties or that have the capacity to perform the same duties. It doesn't take long before someone says, well, that's not my job. And nobody picked up the slack despite having 3 people in that
I was
department.
just kind of actually curious to like.
But I understand though when you said, I agree. Like, you know, when it comes to checks and balances, the person receiving the money versus, but it's the same role on that one.
I just wanted to point out, even though we recommend it, it may not be able to be done, but the way it's written up on
Well,
all these documents.
We can make the
should be able
recommendation
to
of the
make
whole
it.
PowerPoint, and the reality is, at the end of the day, it would be up to the board to take on or reject the recommendations,
Mhm.
and we understand that.
Well, I understand it better now because like, and it's like psychologist, if you can take some of her duties and put it off onto a counselor, you know, that all well and good. If you can take a payroll service and bring it in and make the checks, that's
Absolutely.
great. You know, those
Is it
kind of
cost
things.
efficient? Is that the most cost efficient? That would have to.
You know, but I mean, when you present these things, you know, you have to know what's it cost now. Because every time we make something, when Beth brings it, she says, this is what it costs, this is what it could cost. And that's how decisions are made. So you're gonna have to have a cost effectiveness.
You see, but if you never engage into making the attempt to be efficient, then it's like playing the lottery. Those that don't win are the ones that don't play. I was like, and obviously I understand.
I'd get upset if you said they weren't efficient, you know. But
Well, I mean, looking at the budget,
It's-
that's exactly what I
And I
see.
don't think we're saying one person isn't
Okay.
efficient, we're looking at like the whole, how the structure is structured, is that, can it be more efficient?
yeah,
And,
I wish it could, and if it could,
That's-
they should. That's my, I mean,
right, and that's,
Yeah.
we just wanna talk about it, because
Yeah.
then those are we can look at those and
Yeah.
say, you know what, we probably can do something,
Yeah.
you know, cause we can do a lot of things when we have no alternative. And like, we do have that alternative right now, but like, when we are time crunched, we get a lot more done than when we have 3 hours to prepare for something.
but, you know, they've had increases to deal with. I mean, you preach it to the choir. I pay taxes
I
here
know.
too, you know. And everything you've said, I've heard since the '70s, and I think Jim, we even had a tea party at one time, didn't we?
Kind of.
Yeah, we threw tea into the.
You
into
can't
the
say
side.
that word in this office.
If it,
This is not new.
Those are-
This is old. This goes back to the 80s and the 70s.
Yeah, I mean,
It probably goes back to the formation of the scenic
Yeah.
district, when they got rid of a perfectly good high school
yeah.
and joined other towns. They should never have formed a district, but that's a whole nother stuff.
So the
We are
psychologist,
not going there.
the psychologists I've heard forever.
Sean,
It was a good school.
Yeah.
if it gives you any consolidation in this year, part of this is, I'm looking at the business administrator. Part of their duties, assume responsibilities for the district's assets, and then you have assume responsibilities for district's purchasing, operations, and keeping with the budget. And part of it, it's been broken down, managing banking relations in conjunction with the district's treasurer, since the treasurer is the one that makes out the checks. I believe I was just mentioned. It's like all the oversight is already and job description is already being performed. It may be efficient, maybe perhaps if payroll is something that the board doesn't want to get rid of for whatever reason, or maybe perhaps, but definitely looking into other services. But the reality is, those are the responsibilities. As a matter of fact, and part of the responsibilities is serving as an interim superintendent if the superintendent is not available. I mean, that's not what we're suggesting. We're suggesting the elimination and the consolidation of the principalship with that role. But again, it's something that it's definitely, I'm looking at it, you're looking at more trouble. Somebody gets sick, somebody's out on maternity leave, things happen all the time, whatever it is. And the odds are is that people are going to look at each other and say, well, that's not my responsibility. And we've seen it with we've seen it in the audit and the grant. People were out, jobs needed to get done. And I understand.
But in all fairness, that was two years ago. We didn't have a 100% business administrator at the time. It was like training another lady to do the job because our business administrator had left during the year, didn't he? as I remember, and she took up the role, and, you
Now,
know.
the 2023 report, the most recent one came out.
It
You
wasn't
guys-
Beth. It wasn't. It didn't involve the current business administrator.
And so the most current was not sent to us. Would it be possible for us to receive it? I know that the board is going to review it
We
on
don't
the
even-
18th.
We don't even have it yet, and
They haven't even showed up yet.
Well, I got an email though. I got an email saying we got an email. I don't know if you guys did, but we got an email saying that that although they had received it, they were going to be presenting it to the board on the 18th.
okay, so,
Well, I know they're looking for a new auditor right now, and usually the auditor comes in and goes through the report.
yeah, they usually
And
do
then
a
we-
public presentation.
Yeah, there's a public presentation on it.
Okay, well, is there any other questions regarding item number 4, tabled one? Does anyone have any other questions? We're ready to vote.
Was that 3 or 4, Sonia, just for
I
clarification?
mean, I'm sorry, it is removal of accounts payable. It is item 4 on the list, and I did write 3 on the agenda,
Okay.
sorry. It
No
is
worries.
item 4. You ready to vote? All those in favor of the removal of accounts payable and payroll salaries to combine and add requirements of the business administrative duties. All those in favor by show of hands, raise your hand. All those opposed, it carries 5-0. Okay, item number 13. Adjustment, increase of stipends, removal of stipends. That was the whole stipend, and it was kind of just lumped all into one, so I don't know how to really, I guess it would have to be broken down, I feel like, into,
Yeah, because I got to see everything is all just thrown in there together. I think some stipends, if you want to consider them necessary, but I think that it's very unfair in many cases. You could tell that the coach's stipend is about $2,500 in one of them, I believe, if I can recall correctly. And then we have others where you have it at around $1,825, I believe, or $1,850. The amount of time dedicated, I can say it's not the same. I've seen coaches go out and they don't come back to about 11 or 12. I think that's something that I think a lot of them could be removed, just like the mentor. I think a lot of them could be removed or reduced. And there's definitely has to be something that the board has to initiate as a review in order for them to be able to consider allocating the money more appropriately, if you would.
so what if we adjust 13 to say we recommend that the board, do a thorough review of the stipends, or, yeah, do you have something to add?
I
don't know
just
where-
wanna, just because I'm on the co-curricular committee, which is.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay,
is
yeah.
currently looking at the stipends,
Okay.
because this committee was formed long before my time, and it hadn't been reviewed, so this committee is just getting active. It kind of started again like around COVID. They were looking at efficiencies, they were looking at all kinds of different things. So we are reviewing all the stipends, going through those currently.
Okay.
So we are aware because the board actually directed this committee to do exactly what you guys are discussing, to review, go through.
Yeah, I think that what was happening is that it was based on, there was a formula of some sort, and it was based on how many kids in the team and how much work you had to do. And now they're trying to bring in that if the coach drives the bus, they're gonna get a stipend. Because we've had so much trouble getting bus drivers. So that's another thing. And then we got the smaller bus, and
And we do have an athletic director on that committee also.
Yeah, and that was the other thing that we had previously discussed with the athletic director. I believe the stipend was at $21,000, if I'm not mistaken. At least Dan and I believe that was low. So it's not just a matter of cuts, but it's a matter of fairness.
So even like on that topic of stipends, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, but a stipend can't be more than a certain percentage of what an actual salary would be, like what an average salary would be. So
Not an hourly rate.
yeah, it's gonna start transitioning to an actual paid position, you know, like, it can't be a stipend.
You can't stipend somebody $1 an hour.
Well, no, and you can't stipend somebody, so say an average salary is 40,000 for that role in the state, a $21,000 stipend would exceed that. I think it's a third, like 1/3, and then you're out of that stipend zone.
And
Or-
into a full-time
Like an
position
employee,
or-
part-time, or you have to classify them as something different, like an actual employee, yeah. And I don't know all the ins and outs of that, but yeah.
That, we were talking about a full-time athletic director and combining the both schools, but, you know, we came up with this 22% increase in pallets, 10% increase in electricity, you know, 9%.
Well, not necessarily saying
yeah.
making a full-time position,
Yeah.
but I mean removing that stipend designation, just
Oh,
that
I-
word,
Right.
like it reclassifies them to something else that maybe.
It cannot exceed a certain amount before it is
Right.
considered to be a part-time position.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and do
100%.
some type of benefits or something from the state, like,
Oh, I see,
and,
I see.
yeah.
Now, in this case, this would be that
'Cause we went
this
through
are
that
stipends that are already being
ourselves,
taken up by the majority of employees. I don't know how that would play, but I think that if anything, if we could amend the motion and before voting, in order for it to be open to the public, I think it should be something that the public should
And
take a benefit to.
I think that in our last meeting that we discussed that those are all open to the public. I will say, like, just from personal experience historically, I think we went through a period where positions, specifically athletic, because that's what I'm familiar with, were given to teachers in a way to kind of supplement their salary, even if there were community members that were available. But I kind of feel like it is open to the public. Anybody can apply, and I don't feel like that happens currently.
I don't know if the
Hasn't.
public even knows.
Oh, they do.
Is it on the website?
Yep, it's always on the website, and it's always posted. I don't know.
Do they
on
use
Facebook.
School Spring still?
Yes, they do.
And it's well, I shouldn't say.
But I don't know if they.
I'm
do
only
that.
speaking athletically. They do also post on the Booster Club. They post it like. Do they post it in the paper maybe?
Quick question.
No, they don't.
Do we pay, does the school pay for School Spring? Does it pay, or is it just a free platform?
I don't have that information.
You wouldn't have it?
But all the positions are usually on there.
Well, you have some,
Yeah, coaches' positions are on School Spring too, actually.
yeah. Well, I know
have
that
seen them there.
a
But
lot of
maybe
people have
not
started
like-
transitioning into School Spring, but
So what is School Spring? I'm not-
so School Spring is a platform where you can have something like Frontier or something else where it's more tailored. Like you have to log into the website to the school, and it's a program that you purchase for it, and you kind of go through the application process through that. But it keeps it in the cloud, so if you ever had another school that you were applying to, it would transfer it if you wanted to.
Oh, alright.
But School Spring is
Yeah,
not that.
yeah,
School
it's like
Spring
a-
is just a platform where you create, a user will create their own profile,
Yeah,
and they just apply through there, and they receive the information.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's kinda like-
Indeed.
Yeah, like Indeed, I guess. Yeah,
It's an
Indeed
Indeed,
or
but
ZipRecruiter or
specifically
something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But I guess the point of that is I do believe those they are open to public, the stipends positions, like even the chess club and the drama club.
Yep.
Those are all
Wrestling.
okay.
And I know we've mentioned, it's been brought up in the meetings that, like a lot of our coaches come out of the rec and they know the kids, so we ought to be getting more and more coaches out of that rather than augmenting the teachers. And this has been brought up time and time again, but in the end, it is actually the principal, whoever and the athletic director, they pick,
Mm-hmm.
you just can't, if you say we want somebody else and they say, well, I want this person, then they'll say, as soon as something goes wrong, you said, I told you so.
Well,
I
then I
told
hope
you
as soon as
so.
something goes wrong, you say I told you so, right? Because
Well,
it happens
yes.
both ways.
Yes, it has happened both ways, and they've got it.
But okay, so I guess do we need to vote on that? Are we making it? I don't. It's not worded. I the way that needs to be worded if we're gonna vote on it. It just says like literally adjust / increase of stipends, removal of some stipends, cause it's all like, there's some that we're thinking we don't need necessarily, but then there's others that
Have to be adjusted.
So, I mean.
We've already, keep in mind that we've already eliminated some of them,
With the
for
mentor.
the proposals,
Yeah.
like the mentor program.
Yeah,
Those are 30 stipends, 33 in total.
but we
Which I
also
was
do know that
confused, I
there
don't
is a
wanna go-
committee that's
yeah.
looking at them, so do we feel like we need to vote on this? Do we wanna continue with this one?
Well, I think if we can reword it, I think, we can pretty much formulate a vote where, it would be something that we would be making the recommendation for them to go ahead and
If there's
take the consideration to maybe perhaps formulate a different equation to calculate appropriate funds to the actual, based on whether it's the number of students or based on the time that's spent. I know some seasons go longer than others, but something of that
That's
sort.
exactly what's being done right now in committee. That's what they're evaluating, how many students per team, how long did the season go. Yeah, that's exactly what's being done. But I can see looking at that, that's why the board was like, this needs work in this committee, and that's why we started it back up, so. Just as a side note.
Has not too far off from the topic of evaluation. I was looking at the curriculum coordinator position. Part of the responsibilities is evaluating programs and the analytics. And I was not satisfied with the answer, given that that's part of the roles and responsibilities. That includes the SAT scores, that includes, and I know some people will say it doesn't matter because colleges aren't taking it. But if you don't have a benchmark to be able to measure performance, it makes it difficult
You
for.
know what, Jesus, I would recommend you set up a time to go in and sit down and speak with her and talk to her about it. I think you'd get more information, that would be really helpful.
Well, because I've sent out an email, and it's been about a week now, and the last time I sent out an email requesting the analytics, the first time we met, that same night I sent out an email, it was a matter of nothing. And during the meeting, I know they mentioned a couple of programs, but I think that's something that the board should definitely take into consideration. Is given the state that we're starting to go into improvement plans, I think it's important that we evaluate that.
So that's a CIA director, correct?
Director of Curriculum and Instruction and Assessment,
That is, yeah.
that's like, yeah,
Okay,
vote one.
coming back to the item 13, so right now I have recommended that the board evaluate the efficacy of the current stipend program. Is that more on the line with what we're trying to?
I'm good with it.
you
As a
good
matter
with
of fact, if you don't want to put it up for vote, I'm okay with it. They're saying that they're looking into it, but if that's something
I
that,
think it's good to have there, and then throughout the year and the execution of the budget, you can follow up on some of these things and see if it won't be, recommendations for next year too. Right?
Mhm.
Okay,
Sometimes when you strike things, they get
So
lost.
Celine, do you wanna reword that, effectiveness of stipend?
recommend that the board evaluate the efficacy of the current stipend program. I'm not sure if that's the right word, but I threw it in there.
It's big,
It's a big word.
hard to say.
Lots of syllables. All of those in favor by a show of hands. All those opposed. It passes 5-0. Okay, looking at our new items. The item number 25, the elimination of the owl pellets for the science class substitute allocations. Did I write that wrong?
Substitute
I mean, it sounds awkward
I
because,
feel like,
but
yeah.
that's
Well, it's just part of their curriculum and it's just a consumable that the kids use to dissect and report
Right.
on.
I mean, if you're gonna spend 13,000, I think they're better off buying cats for them to dissect. That's my personal opinion, and they could maybe perhaps get that. That doesn't mean that you have to remove. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to remove the money, if you would, just reallocate it to a more useful and purposeful curriculum. Whether that be, because I'm assuming if they're dissecting pellets, that's not physics, that's not earth and space, that's not chemistry. And so that has to be biology, or it has to be anatomy and physiology. And the kids would definitely get more hands-on, and I think it would be more beneficial in their curriculum if they were to get, whether that be fetuses, or that be cats, or that be worms. I think they would definitely be more useful.
Maybe the costs aren't the same for all
And
the
a
different
recommendation
things.
from Peter.
Well, I know that.
I have another question too, though. I know. So we did. This is just when we were in middle school. So we did the owl pellets in middle school. We did a cat in high school. Is that still how it is? So
I
I don't know.
have
So I mean,
There's no budget for cat, at least, unless they put it under office
so
supplies
I know
or
that's
something.
how it was when.
No.
Yeah.
Sorry, the owl pellets.
Probably
So I wonder if the owl,
Yeah.
was
the
like
owl
a,
pellets
it's
is
like a
already
middle school more.
like a
and then
reduction in cost,
Or maybe.
they already got rid of the higher cost cat, dog, whatever it may be. You know, like I imagine some of those things would cost more.
But they sell
I don't
little
know.
piglets, though. Little fetuses.
You know,
That,
those are still going to be more than owl pellets.
well, I'll tell you what, but if you do them in a group, that would be much more significant when it comes to learning. Just, I mean, what they're
So a lot
learning
of your
here is the
recommendations come
anatomy.
off redundancy. Is there redundancy in this category, like the owl pellets? Or
I agree. We should remove them.
no, I'm asking,
Oh.
is there? Like, why are you suggesting to remove them?
Well, because academically, there's no benefit unless you are practicing the skill of surgical skills. I mean, it's turd. It's an owl
I
turd
know.
that you're dissecting, and then you're beginning to analyze.
So even more so in these days where kids are becoming more and more disconnected with the living actual world, I think there's value to this. And if it's the lowest cost option, I would hate to take it out of the school because it's just one more layer of like, all right, look at a computer instead of actually touching something, pulling it apart, seeing what's in it, and understanding what happens when something consumes something. Like, so the owls consume something, this is what it comes out as, this is a mouse, like, it makes sense to me. And for $13,000, if there's no replacement for it, I wouldn't feel comfortable taking it out.
I'd just like to make a statement. When I was going to school, elementary, high school, junior, and all that, we went on a little field trip and we went to the local pond and we caught our own frog to dissect it. Okay? There's plenty of ponds. There's a lot of wet water, lot of wetlands that the kids can go on a biology field trip and get out in nature instead of in front of a computer and go catch their own frog, and then they have to euthanize it and then they have to dissect it. So that gives a bond to the child that, hey, I got this frog.
Don't we have
I got
property?
this frog.
Should we?
By the high school, I'm pretty sure there's mushrooms everywhere.
There's mushrooms, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's something that there's better cost efficient ways if that's what we mean. I don't think if you're not going to go big, and when it comes to that perspective, because when you dissect an animal, if you would, it's not just the analytics of the food chain, but it's the analytics of having to look at anatomy. And if the teacher is efficient, takes out microscopes, you can even do sampling and be able to look at tissue.
And this isn't my forte, education. So I find it hard to tell each and every teacher or category of teacher, like subject, what they should be doing. Like, I don't know how it got there. And again, for $13,000 and $19-20 million budget, I see more value to it than just removing it and taking it away, without offering, I guess some replacement, or no, if
I would amend it.
replacement is
Can I
viable.
make an amend? Can I amend that?
Sure, and then we'll vote. What do you want to say?
Either removal or find a substitute that is more
cost effective?
Rich in curriculum,
Okay.
more rich in curriculum, I would say.
Yeah, so this is
Because I don't necessarily look at the cost effectiveness when it comes to. I mean, I look at positions. If you have a teacher with 9 students versus another one who has 23 in the class, that I look at. But when it comes to providing good substantial material for the students to really learn, I don't. It's even if it was $2,000 or $3,000 more, I think it would be worth it. But that's just my opinion. I'm a science teacher, math and science. That's my main area.
Restate that, Jesus, so I get it correctly.
Yeah, so
Elimination of owl pellets or substitute for something rich in curriculum?
Yeah, much more substantial, rich in curriculum that would require hands-on. Because whenever I teach with project-based learning.
And then that's even if it costs a little bit more, but it's more enriching, right?
Yeah, it's more enriching. It's something that you can carry out. So even if you were to do, for example, you do a cat, if you would, it's something that, it's not just a matter that you open it and you just throw it away.
So even if there's an increase in cost?
I think I would be willing to increase it by,
Okay.
by a flat.
That's fair,
Okay.
Is that
that's
something
fair
we
enough.
need to
Yeah,
discuss?
I think I would be willing to increase it. I would go as far as,
If we're talking
I
about
think
Well,
20,000
that's a recommendation,
would be
and get
reasonable.
around that, like, yeah.
I grew up on a farm, so I mean,
No, I
it
know.
was
Okay.
easy for
All right,
me.
we're gonna vote.
More and more it's just
So that we can move
disappearing.
on.
Yeah, yeah.
So this is number 25, we're dealing with the owl pellets. It now is a removal or substitute an item that is more rich in curriculum, still requiring hands-on learning. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed. 4-1. That was 25. Okay. Number 26. This is specifically to the Spanish 4 class stipend, removing the stipend for the extra Spanish class.
Well, we cannot remove the stipend. We are consolidating the class.
Right, consolidating 3,
with
4.
the Spanish 3, because the stipend is already an established agreement, I believe, in the CBA.
Right.
Um,
I think it was
yeah.
recommend removing the extra Spanish class, because actually the extra class wasn't the Spanish 4 class.
No, they said it was honors. They said it was the top honors, unless
So from
you
what,
can pick and choose from any of them.
right, well, from what I understand, and again, it's still just, he was teaching an extra Spanish class, but the extra class that he was actually teaching was a level 1 or 2, because there were so many kids coming in that wanted to enroll, and the class filled up and they couldn't, because he did have these other classes. And then, in order to allow more people into the Spanish, he said, I'll teach another class. So the extra class that he actually is teaching was either a level 1 or a level 2, I believe.
I have the recollection that
But if we move 3 and 4 together, it would still open up that space.
absolutely.
So it doesn't really matter which class it was, but I don't think it was necessarily the class 3 or 4.
Yeah, I believe,
Am I-
if I
Way off.
recall
At the
correctly,
beginning of the year is always the
I was at
intention.
at the school board
Yeah,
meeting
right.
where this was discussed. I remember being there.
And we had more students at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and it didn't materialize. But it's always their intention to have as many people in the class as possible. But depending on what the needs of the students, they do change. And
Right, and I guess my question for like when this happens, at what point in the school year, the school year starts, you have 12 kids in the class to start with,
right.
due to scheduling, due to whatever, people move out of the class and you end up with 6 or 8 in each class. Can we then look at combining them that late in the school year? Like, would that be an
Well,
option?
then you have to change the schedule for all those kids again.
but
That's
isn't
the
that what they're
problem.
doing already?
They are at the beginning, but once you get into it after a few weeks, then you'd have to change it again. It's
Well-
such a small school that it's really hard, and it's not their intention to have 6 kids in a class.
Yeah, no,
It really isn't.
and that's why I think we all know that. But when it does get down to that number, what are our other options?
Well, the other option is to get those kids. I mean, they've already modified. You have let's say you start a class with 12 kids. You've already changed 6 schedules. You end up with 6. There's no different from changing 6 more schedules and reallocating them and freeing that period, and maybe perhaps even opening up a different class. That would be a different curriculum. I would want to see, creative literature in Spanish as a curriculum.
Well, that would be the high school teacher would enlighten you more than anybody else. It always takes a lot, and it lasts for a while. And it's the two of them, the vice principal and the principal, just
Right.
trying to get everybody organized and pick their classes.
Well, I
and
just
stay
know,
in
like,
them.
in the past, students sign up for classes. This has happened, to some of my kids. They sign up for classes in the spring. Well, then halfway through the summer, they find out that class was canceled because
Right.
it didn't have enough enrollment.
Right.
So I guess it's that same kind of thing that's happening here. Unfortunately, it's happening after the school year starts,
Yes.
but it's still the same thing. So, like, is there some sort of structure that could be developed, like, or some sort of cap where once a class drops below 6, it's not it's not feasible to run that whole class for those 4 kids, and do we add them in somewhere else? Like, is there something like that we could come up with
I know.
creatively?
Yeah, yes, there is. I mean, you try to put them in VLAX, but then they get into the VLAX and they end up dropping that too as well. Or the only suggestion we had is if we could combine with another district, and this is going to have to happen, but there's just not an appetite for that right now. Where you put a couple, because it happens in all the high schools. They don't have 18 kids in each class. There's no way.
Just for clarification, Selena, the board has asked that any classes that have less than 10 are reported to the board
Yes.
to
Okay.
then make recommendations.
Yeah, I guess because in my mind, it's easy to say well, no, because it's already started. But I think we can get creative too, and there's other solutions that can be had. Are they not comfortable for everybody?
So we do
Absolutely
get updated
not.
and get reports and how they're gonna make that work. As a matter of fact, this year we had some CP kids, there was such a small CP group that were put into the honors class. So
Yeah, they combine
they
the
combine
class.
those, so.
Yeah.
So one contributing factor could be the kids that know they're even leaving are made to choose classes for the next year, and then they don't find out until the school year starts.
Yes.
That was my case, like my family's case. Like, even though we knew we were changing things, he still had to pick classes, and it's just why, and then we said that why. Well, just in case. So I wonder if that's a factor into it.
That's
That's a good
very
point.
good point, because
Yeah.
if that happened to 20 students,
Or they
that's a lot of people
Yeah.
that were kind of ghosts enrolled in classes. Interesting.
Yeah, no, so that was, you see, and it's easier to combine in this case the Spanish 4 and the Spanish 3, because one with 6 kids, the other one with 8 kids.
Yeah,
It's
right.
easier to change schedules of 6 rather than trying to figure out how to change one for
Or
22
combine
and one for
them, or
25.
combine them. Why wasn't it combined? At what point, I get that point. I get that, and it's not our
Yeah,
intention.
so when it comes to the $9,000, it's because regardless of the class that was taken, I think it's important that we accommodate the kids in the school and not vice versa. We don't accommodate the school for the needs of a kid or the wants of a kid. There are needs, like I said, and graduation requirements is a need, and so I think that should be primary goal, and then if there's time and everything else, looking at the availability. I can tell you that a teacher having a conference in a planning period performs significantly better than one that doesn't have a planning period or one that doesn't have a conference, because you get more time. That's what we do. Even though we have a planning period, depending on the school, you usually have something called PLCs, and you get, with your learning community, you get to plan. And then with a conference period, that's when you get to make connections. You get to make phone calls home. You get to address certain things. You get to pull out kids that need tutoring. you're able to, even for a fact, you're able to sit down and plan more of your material. And so, especially with him, I mean, he's teaching 4 levels of Spanish. And one planning, I guarantee you he's staying after school. And so he's staying
there
after
all
school.
the
So,
time.
According,
so
He's there all the time.
So
And
it's
so-
like these
so yeah.
small classrooms are creating this
well,
excess burden on the teachers.
well, it's not just excess burden on the budget; it's an excess burden on the teacher.
That's
No,
what I
it
said.
would, the
So
excess,
what-
the excess burden became up because we did away with the French teacher. So those people that were in that class now had to switch over to Spanish. And there was a German class as well. So that happened, the year before. So those people found out that they couldn't take French anymore. So now they had to switch over to Spanish, and that's what
sorry.
brought the
So this
crowd.
I'm gonna, I would like to kind of adjust this number 26. I know that we're focused on the Spanish class because it's currently in the budget, but I'd like to maybe look at any
Any cost.
Any
class,
class.
any teacher that's being asked to add that stipend, that be, thoroughly reviewed and thought about through the board, and all other avenues attempted as, changing schedules, combining classes, not just the Spanish. I don't know, really, if that's worded.
Yeah, I think, yeah, definitely. I think that it should be looked at, whenever it comes to, even though it's an agreement of it, but anytime it conflicts with the conference or the planning period, or anytime you have small classes in general, I think it should be thoroughly reviewed and the consolidation of it. So, and again, I'm pretty sure the counselors are going to do the same thing. When I look at, the classes, I was looking at grade level. I was looking at teachers that are teaching around the same class period. I'm looking at class sizes. So per class, per department, per grade level, and same course. And so, and like I said, I mean, just looking at what I see here, it's like you have classes that you have 10 students, 9 students. And yet I compare that to some of the other ones, like in science, 19, 18, 23. Like I see this this arbitrary number that's just tossed in there. Some of them are extremely low, some of them are significantly high. And so I think there should be a minimum, there should be a conservative effort to have a minimum of 18 students. And it may vary, 2 here, 2 down, but I think there should be a conservative effort of a minimum of 18 students, because especially if they're not afraid of mixing high level with low performing, if that's what they want to call it, or regular classes with high performing, because I see that there are some that are combined. You have, the regular with, I don't know what RS is. I have no idea, but I see obviously they have the capstone there, which is the regular class combined with honors. So they're not, it's the teacher's job to differentiate instruction. And that's our role. We differentiate instruction. And so I think that there should be, I agree. I think we should amend it to, no class should be, obviously it's going to differ maybe perhaps 3-4 months into the year, or 6-7 weeks into the year. It may change by 2. I think we should seriously start looking into, or in this case, the principal should start looking into when you start having 6-7 kids wanting to leave the class. I think there's either a classroom management issue, or the culture at the school is an issue. And that should be addressed. We should not have kids wanting to leave from a required class for graduation. And so it's essential for them to do a root cause analysis and start fixing the culture.
Okay, I'm added number 26. It says recommend removing the extra class stipend unless at the discretion of the board to allow for graduation required courses. Does that make sense?
Alright,
I
so
apologize. What was the?
Recommend removing of the extra class stipend unless at the discretion of the board to allow for graduation required courses. Cause I do feel like
Correct.
if there's a class that's required for graduation, we can't fit everybody in. And then if it is a required class.
I mean, I agree. And that would be an extraordinary
Right,
circumstance
But
because given our population, we have about 240 students.
Removing extra class stipend.
Unless at the discretion of the board to allow for graduation required course. I mean, but I kind of think like that, going back to the Spanish, is about that, because if it was the Spanish 1 or 2 for those kids that are going to college, they need that 1 or 2 class, so. But, okay, we're voting on removing the extra class stipend. All those in favor, raise your hand by show of hands. Passes 5-0. That was number 25, okay. It is 6:30, we still have a lot to do, so let's try to be very forward.
So are we hoping that that's gonna translate into larger class sizes? Or
Yes.
is there another
No,
recommendation?
It
No.
sounds awful when you say larger class sizes. It's just an adequate number.
I know, when I was a
But
kid,
that's not
we
the,
were
that's not the,
like at like
that's just a
30.
stipend, that's for an
Yeah.
extra class only.
Yeah, so I was trying to
Yes.
understand the dialogue, because I don't think it'll necessarily translate that way.
Or that's, and
Yeah.
it's.
So we
really
want
the
another
same thing.
recommendation.
Are you putting in a recommendation?
Yeah, to have the,
Class sizes.
18 student.
No minimum than
The
18.
consolidation, was that on one of the ones that you voted on?
I believe
Wednesday?
that was the rationale
Consolidation.
behind the elimination of certain teachers in certain departments. Well, not certain teachers.
Oh.
The number of teachers
So,
in certain
well,
departments.
trying to come around it, but instead directly
Yeah, now
make a
addressing it as a.
recommendation. Yeah,
I agree. I think it's a good idea.
yeah.
I just needed clarification.
A minimum of 18, is that what the number was?
18.
Yeah.
And I would
It
s-
seems to work out that way. 'Cause
Now
there's
I
a lot of
know
classes
for a
with
fact
six
that
kids in it.
Dr. Martin said that it could go up to 30. I think it should not go more than, in my opinion, I don't think it should go more than 22. At 23, in a circumstance where you only have one student who needs the class, but that's my opinion. I don't think it should exceed 23. I don't think it should be less than 18.
Do we want to put the max number on there?
But
Not to exceed,
Not to exceed 23?
I think that 30 is a state number.
Yeah, we don't.
a minimum of 18 students per class and not to exceed.
Well, then we could have that max of 30, not to exceed 30.
well, that's
Because then
already
it's like-
that's already in the CBA.
Yeah, no, so
I
it
believe
makes
But I
sense.
think we
Yeah.
should, I
You could-
would
yeah.
hate to say class of 30 kids on it.
Doesn't mean
I agree.
never will happen, we're just saying that it won't go.
Because then if it does, because
Well,
if
we
it
don't have
does,
to-
Look, if it goes, that means
then you
that
have to review it. Like,
we have wrench coming to our schools
Yeah.
now.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Or all
Okay,
the kids
so
come
do you
back.
want me to put the exceed as 23 or 30? Which I feel like 30 is redundant because that's actually.
Yeah, that is the number right
So,
now. So
I
I would
think-
not to exceed 23.
Okay,
that would
and then
be-
that would just be readdressed
Yeah.
by the board if that was happening. Okay. So that is now number 29. It's not getting shorter here, guys. Okay.
Can I ask one question and leave? 'Cause I don't wanna sit through all of this.
Come on, Jim.
I just want a couple of quick questions. One is, do they teach calculus there?
Yes.
Only one course, one class,
Do they have
of
enough
4
people there?
students. They teach calculus AP, one class, only with 4 students.
4 students, okay.
4 students, yes,
So
sir.
this would be eliminated?
No,
If you
sir.
have a minimum of 18, you know.
Well, no, because if you consolidate classes, you will have it will open up more availability. My issue is we have pre-algebra, for example, with 9 students in one course, 9 students in another class period, 9 students in another. So the consolidation of classes,
Was it all the same algebra?
yes.
I mean, we have algebra 1, 2, I mean.
So pre-algebra is one of the foundations, more of operations. But yes, it's.
It's just
Yeah.
the schedules up there. And
So-
it's more about the scheduling.
Oh, I
How to
agree.
get the kids into and get.
Did you have another question, sir?
Yeah, the other question I had was, I'd be careful with the business administrator. If you pull out the superintendent, you may need more from the business administrator.
I think the recommendation would be
I'm thinking in terms of inputting the payroll, and accounts payable, are you looking for the business administrator to physically gather up all the data that comes in and then process it and key it in themselves, or are you looking for them to
I believe,
supervise?
don't they have I believe all administrators, at least that I know of, business administrators have a secretary.
Okay,
Uh,
so you're
so-
not going
so it's
down
not
to-
necessarily-
you're
They're
not
not
going down to one
the
person.
Oh, that might be something that the board could consider, having clerical, but it's very different having two full positions versus having a clerical position to assist in the
Right,
matters.
right.
Yeah, I mean, it would be redundant to say that we need the other two positions just because we don't want to say yes to clerical.
Okay, we are gonna
Okay,
carry
thank
on.
you
I think
very
I think
Is there anything I can do to help you in the future? We talked about warrant articles.
Yep, thank you.
These guys know how to get a hold of me. Just give me a call.
Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you.
Yes,
Good night, Jim.
Thank you,
Right.
Jim.
Good night.
See you Tuesday.
Good night.
Sorry for keeping you up.
Bring
That's
your
all
rocks
right.
and bring your
That's
rocks
all
and
right.
coffee.
So,
Huh?
Bring your rocks and coffee.
I'll bring my scone and coffee to the next ZBA meeting.
Rocks. His scones.
Oh.
Rocks and coffee. Okay.
I don't
do
know if
think-
I
Oh,
did
that's
these
tea
wrong.
party.
He's
Yeah,
coming
no,
in
tea
Tuesday
party.
night to talk
Jesus.
about something else.
Yes.
Yeah,
Number
so we called them
27
rocks
is
and throw
remove
them
the
at
pay
me.
raise of substitutions at $30 per day.
No, so we
And I didn't understand that one.
so that was one of the proposals that was made. I haven't looked at the number 3, but my issue was, as we mentioned, and I don't know if we even had enough time when we voted last time, is that they have a pay scale that starts with, no degree, just
Yeah, I
a high
thought we
school
talked
diploma.
about
Yeah,
this one already.
that was voted on at the last
Absolutely.
meeting.
So
Right,
we
so-
voted on the 2, the pay scale for 2. In this case, we did not vote on the raise, which was $30, which means that it would increase in some cases up to $140.
So per day?
Yeah, that's not my wording. That's actually wording that came from the budget. Yeah. They want to increase. I wanted to have it 2 tiers, which was at 100 and 120.
Yeah, which is in your notes.
Yeah, that's it. That's all it was. They wanted to increase all 4 tiers by $30. So the 65 goes up to the 95, and then you have the 75 who goes up. So it's small scales, but they all go up by $30 per day. That's in the budget. That's what they have. And so that means that if we have, that would come up to about 130, given that if we were to get, let's assume, only retired teachers at roughly at around 130, if we were to get only, you're looking at 130, given the pay raise, and I believe it would bring it up to perhaps, I believe it's either 130 or 140. Given the number that was recorded at 1,117, they're at 145,210. And so that's why I had trouble justifying the amount of money that they were requesting, which was one of the items that I sent you. They're requesting $55,000 for each. Even going at the maximum pay rate of $165,000 that they're requesting, I can go with the highest with the total number of absences of days covered, and I can't even get close to it.
Yeah, so there's a huge discrepancy in the numbers.
So
right
unless
now.
unless somebody's making projections, or somebody's already anticipating something, but I don't know if that would even be legal. If you can,
It's even like that. So at 8 hours,
you mean for
because
130?
that sub rate is low in general to have somebody, go in, to work for less than $15 an hour, and
Yeah, so at 130 would be about 1625. At 130, assuming it's 8 hours,
yeah,
it would be if it is at I believe right now it's about 7 hours. So at 7 hours, it brings it up to I believe it's about $20. And what we wanted to do is ensure that the schools were covered, and we wanted to make sure that they're covered by parents if possible, in my opinion, because they're the ones who know the kids. We want people from the community, and if we have people in the community who don't meet that requirement, then no one's gonna get up in the morning to go work 7 hours in a dysfunctional school. No one's gonna do that for $65. Especially when
They do
So I
have,
thought you were talking about removing it.
No.
So am I missing something?
no,
Like, I thought-
that's what they have it right now. They're proposing a $30 increase in all 4 tiers.
Yeah.
And so,
But your proposal is to remove that $30, so we won't have the increase.
well, it was to remove it with the assumption that, oh, you separated both.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no, so I apologize,
Because
yeah.
we voted on the
Yeah.
other one last
Yeah.
time.
No, yeah, so the last one was to, like, remove the 30
Right, and
and
to have
put a
the
2-tier
two-tier.
system at 100 and 120.
Right, and we
Um,
voted on that last time.
And if we were to make it 100 or 110 and 130, it doesn't matter how you want to make it, just 2 tiers. I think it would be easier for payroll. But in
So-
general, it just,
So you
it-
want
it-
to change the vote then?
Did we go
Well,
2
so-
tiers?
so yeah, you
before?
wouldn't need to vote, I guess.
We voted that down last.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
last
it's
meeting.
currently at 4 tiers.
but it's currently at 4 tiers.
Yeah.
I don't see it. I don't see it in the 23.
Oh no, that was that was in the stuff that they send us through email, which was the substitutes. No. That was so they send us through email. They send us a list of substitutes, how many substitutes
So you
were
really don't want
required
to
for the
reduce
year,
it. Like
and-
we,
We want to increase it.
Right.
So we
don't
wanted to
wanna
increase
remove
it
the pay raise.
and remove all the tiers and make it into 2 solid tiers,
yeah,
where
we
you had
voted that
degreed and
down.
non-degreed.
So we have 4 tiers.
We have 4 tiers right
Because
now.
that's a recommendation, like that.
Absolutely.
What we voted on the other day. So then, how does this get amended to fit that? So
Fit-
that the 2 recommendations work together?
So my recommendation would be to eliminate the 2 tiers. I'm sorry, the 4-tier system.
We already did that though, we're gonna go with that, like the recommendation was to go with it.
No, we
Right.
voted that down.
My recommendation
we-
was to eliminate the 4, have
Yeah.
2 degreed, non-degreed,
Yeah,
at a rate of 100 and 120,
Right, we
or
got voted down.
at a rate of 110 and 130.
no, that's exactly what I'm saying, so the 4-tier system is the recommendation.
That's what they have right now.
Yeah, like it's staying, yeah. So
Okay.
then how does that removing $30, I'm not understanding.
Well,
how-
the budget
I'm
was
sorry if it's,
proposing.
this-
Yeah, no. The budget was proposing a $30 increase for every tier. The
Right.
budget,
Which
But-
is, which
so-
we need.
Right, so you're saying we wanted to increase the.
yeah, so
but
last
the other
time,
part didn't get voted in.
correct, so last time whenever, I guess the recommendation was, so I guess the recommendation was split into 2. It was supposed to be just 1. The recommendation was to have replace and increase both. In this case, they're keeping, so the recommendation was split into 2 sections. That's why the $30 doesn't make sense.
Yeah, alright,
Yeah.
yeah, so it doesn't
Okay.
make sense.
Yeah, so it doesn't make sense
Okay.
because it was split into half, and
Okay, now that makes sense.
Yeah.
yeah, so that's the
Okay.
reason why, because it was split. So it's but when I mentioned it was not supposed to be split. It was supposed to be to replace and to provide the increase in there already.
Which the $100 per day and the $120 was with the increase.
Correct.
Right.
So the increase was not at 30. The increase was at 40, 35, 45, something like that. And that was the suggestion, rather than having to go 30 across the board in all 4 sections.
Yeah, but, alright, so are we even gonna,
No, you don't
We
have
don't
to.
need to vote
yeah,
on it.
yeah, so we can just strike
So we're
this?
gonna
Yeah,
strike
you can
that
strike
one.
it.
Are you good?
well, I can tell you, there was COVID money, so that those got increased. So they may have been up there at one time too.
No.
But yeah, we increased them during the COVID.
Was it lower than 65?
No, it was higher because there was some COVID money brought in to
Oh, and then
supplement.
they went back down. So
Yes,
it was
and-
65,
oh.
went up during COVID, and now it's
Yes,
back
so-
down.
Okay.
And I mean, they still have
Okay.
trouble getting, more times than not, the vice principal and the principal are subbing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're leaving the $30 increase in there then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's no need to put it in the PowerPoint. That's
Okay.
already in the budget. That's
Yeah,
what's being
It's
proposed.
gonna go, yep.
Yeah.
Okay, number 27, to propose that New Ipswich and Greenville each have a select board member on this budget committee meeting. This budget committee.
And where this kinda comes from is that in the time that I've been a part of different school meetings, the town functions and things, I'm not aware of an instance where New Ipswich and Greenville select boards have come together with the school board to discuss the budget. And I apologize for my speech today, it's just a long week.
Yeah,
I
sorry.
get there. Some Mondays I speak well. Yeah. So yeah, no, it's just kind of where it comes from. It's in the articles of agreement between the communities and the SAU. That's what's to happen. So I think this would be a way to force it.
I think that would be,
That's
I think it'd be helpful,
Mhm.
like just having your knowledge is from the selectmen of New Ipswich.
So that would have to be a warrant article, correct?
And it could, be a warrant article to amend. Yeah.
I think that's
Well,
something that would be better suited rather than as a recommendation, because the reality is, if you leave it to the board, and even if the board takes it, right?
We can't
The odds
force
are
them
is-
to come.
Yeah, but you can't force them, and it's
Right.
like, so even if the board takes it, it's like you won't be able to. It's whoever applies.
Yeah, no,
Right.
there
Whoever
would be that
volunteers.
outreach, Jesus, like to each community, and as we change that culture of disconnection and make it so that, hey, this is what we need to do. So next year we'll know as a board who's gonna go be liaison to the ABC, or an ex officio to the ABC, and it really should be done annually. And I wholeheartedly believe you can't force them, but at least they can decline.
Well, it's kind of
going,
like on the
yeah.
school board, you all have to be part of different committees,
Correct.
or you're encouraged to, right?
Yes.
So it'd be kind of
We're
the same
assigned.
thing.
We're signed to.
So at least that
committees.
attempt is
Okay.
made,
Well,
and they should
I-
have to
I
say,
think
hey,
it's-
New Ipswich declined, or the select board could appoint a designee to go,
Yes,
Mhm.
Yeah.
that would be more appropriate.
or designee,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I think that it should be built into the school board schedule that maybe every quarter there's one devoted, with town issues as well as school issues.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, but that's something that the select boards.
So there's interest in New
Do
Ipswich
you want
and,
it to be a designee or
well,
Okay.
select board member or designee,
select board or designee? Okay.
That's like me.
yeah, select board
That's
designee,
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, it
To,
could,
to serve on the ABC.
correct.
So,
Yeah.
I put in there the warrant article part, let me know if you wanna take it out. Recommend looking at proposing a warrant article to have New Ipswich and Greenville each have a select board member or designee on the
Or
ABC.
select board
Does that make
member
sense?
designee.
Or
yeah,
designee.
well, Tara's.
Well, you don't
been
want
part of
the ABC or
Tara
the
Souza,
school
she's
board to
been on
designate
ABC.
who that's gonna be.
Yes,
You know what I'm
because she
saying?
Or
volunteered.
select board designee,
Reach
is that
out.
what you're saying, okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
just
so
to
does
kinda
that need to be a
make
warrant
sure.
article, or can-
it's a little wordy, but
I don't think you can make it a warrant article. I think it's
Yeah,
something,
I
a
don't-
suggestion
that's
rather
Wouldn't
than
it be
anything.
I guess an adjustment to the warrant article that created this board?
Oh, you want the whole town to vote on this?
Yeah.
Oh,
Why not?
oh, okay.
that's where I was going with it.
Oh,
Codify it a little bit,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, if you want
Enforce
to
maintenance.
amend the
The original
the
warrant article
original
to include,
to include, yeah.
cause then there'd be more cohesiveness between the towns and the.
Yeah, I mean, right now, our
School.
charter states New Ipswich and Greenville residents, but you see even well, actually, last year we had one Greenville resident too.
We have one,
And we have one this year.
Right this
We
year.
try to,
mhm.
reach out and make sure we get some.
Yeah,
but
and Tara was on it too,
yeah, Tara, reach out, Tara was on it, but I think,
she's the administrator,
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
okay,
and that would be the designee.
I'm
We
sure.
have to wait for Jose
Probably
to-
Greenville would send, I'd imagine,
Yeah,
but I'm not gonna say anymore.
And then, once Jose gets back, we'll vote on that, and then the last one is to encourage the class size to a minimum of 18 students and not to exceed 23 students. And then we're done with these ones. And it's 7:15. Just keeping it all in mind. And there might be a
Hey.
basketball game tonight.
Not really.
Maybe.
If we don't keep these lights on till 9:45, 10 o'clock, they still work right. Gotta keep them warm.
okay, here he is.
Okay, all those in favor of recommending to, proposing a warrant article to have a New Ipswich and Greenville have a select board member or a select board designee on this committee. All those in favor by show of hands? Passes 5-0. I lost my page. And voting on number 28, encourage class size to a minimum of 18 students and not to exceed that of 23 by show of hands. Passes 5-0. Okay, we've done all our voting. There's no more adding to this list, okay? The next thing to do, we are going to review Jose's slideshow presentation. Keeping in mind that we have 10 minutes about to present to the board, and we want it to be like, you know, as impactful and meaningful and clear
Oh, it'll be impactful.
as it can be.
It'll be scary.
Oh boy.
It'll be scary because
So are you gonna plug in and go through
I could. What I have right now, there's obviously a couple of things that I have to add from there, but I'll be more than welcome
it's
to.
just sort of
Yeah, these
Yeah,
are,
like
absolutely.
an overview, basically.
yeah,
It's not,
it's kind of just,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you guys can.
Well, good thing we're watching it now, so we're not too scared.
Yeah.
Preview. We get the preview.
Popcorn.
And so
Well, you
to
have copies of it, right, too?
Oh, I was gonna say, hey,
Oh,
Susan,
yeah,
if you could get
Copy of the
after you guys
presentation?
Yeah,
review it,
yeah,
are you
yeah.
planning on meeting on Monday? Because if you are, I need to get that posted.
That was my question. Do we want to meet Monday before the school board meeting to see the final? I think it personally would be a good idea. And just to kind of,
I can already see Sean just
I know.
dreading it. Oof.
not dreading it. It's
I know.
just
It's,
trying to figure it out, you know, because after
6
that,
PM?
do you have something?
what's that?
Do you have something
Work. I do
No,
have
at
to like
5?
make a living.
Yeah.
at 5?
No,
Well, I mean,
5, yeah,
don't worry
5,
about
5,
it. 30% of your salary will go to taxes.
5 o'clock. Yeah, I can do 5. I was thinking you guys were say like 3 or 4 or something like that. So,
No, I
yeah.
can't do that. So.
Okay. Yeah, 5 is
So we
doable.
meet 5 there.
At the SAU, so that way we're right there.
Mhm.
You know, and then I will, just so you guys know, I'm only available till about 6:45 before I have to come back here for our own finance advisory committee recommendations and to go over the big budgets.
So after
At
the,
7.
I won't be at the meeting, at this meeting on Monday because I have the board meeting at 6, plus I have my granddaughter, so I won't be able to make it there that early. I'll try to get there. But if you guys do meet, once you've approved that PowerPoint presentation, if you could get it to Melissa so she could put it up on the screen so everybody there as you're presenting, Jesus, can see as you're going through it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I could do is I could send it to everybody, and to you, Tom. I could send it to everybody. I might BCC everybody, just giving you a heads up. I'll probably just send it to her and just BCC everybody. But I can add something. I'm hoping to have it ready. Hoping that you guys are gonna not be too far from having too many suggestions. And so
Sharpening my pencil.
yeah, I can already tell.
So we're gonna be here at 5 Monday.
SAU.
SAU
So that way
5.
it's just right there.
Perfect. All right. Cool.
Yeah.
So 5, I should send it out by Saturday evening. It'll probably be earlier than that.
Okay.
You just want to hit that light again?
Absolutely. Let's see. Let me get into insert slideshow. Any suggestions in the title?
Looks good.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead. I do have to make a suggestion in there, which is going to be the. So here we have the introduction of the committee members. We have the and the charter, which in this case would be the statements that were provided to us. Oh, you guys, I'll give you guys time to read it. Although this was exactly taken verbatim from the presentation. The one
good.
slides that I was the one who kind of added everything else. I'll let you guys know. So, and this one was the one that I made some suggestions, just because in the ones that it was provided, you could tell that people just agreed with everything. And it was like, yeah, we met, here you go. Can you guys see it large enough?
Yep.
Yeah. It's
Okay. So yeah, so
I might,
So I wouldn't go ahead and put a goal in there. The goal was to scrutinize the budget with as much detail within the limited time span granted to us. And oh yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. That thing is small. Yeah. Yeah. So there's definitely typos. Just giving you a heads up. I'm colorblind to red, so every time the squiggly line applies, and it's a small screen. Anyway. So yeah. So lifespan granted to us. Eliminate any spending that was deemed unnecessary to maximize the efficiency of the school district and serve in the best interest of the students. I will be adding a new statement to it in addition to that one. So this were some of the findings. This were the overall findings. And if you don't agree, please go ahead and make any suggestions. And overstaffing school administrative unit, causing a redundancy in roles and responsibilities. And overstaffing of optional services personnel, causing a redundancy in roles and responsibilities. And arbitrary student-teacher ratio in 3 departments at the Messinik Regional High School. One thing that needs to be clarified, I know there was a lot of talk about, oh, they're removing teachers from the elementary, and no, if anybody moves them, it's not us. Like, I don't know if the board does it, but yeah, like, we're not, I only strictly looked at at where 240 students are enrolled, which was at the Messinik Regional High School. I think that the what? Yeah, because no, I think it's important. I think it's important that that especially the elementary, given that it's now an improvement plan, and even when you leave the improvement plan, being at the bottom 7% doesn't make it any better.
The improvement plan.
Huh?
When we all leave the improvement plan.
When we all
They are eliminating elementary school teacher in the budget.
Who?
That's in the draft. There is
I don't know. Well, again, that was not something that we proposed. That was something that the SAU proposed.
Yeah.
Is the elimination of the elementary teacher. That did not come from the advisory committee, and so whoever is trying to point fingers and say it was you guys, no, it wasn't us.
He was blaming us again.
Well, it's just
It's us.
us. It was us. No, it wasn't us. That was administrative. So whoever has a problem with that, that's something that they have to discuss with the board and as well as administration. Methodology of review. This is the method that we used. Multiple sources were used to objectively review the essential needs of the Messinik Regional School District, including but not limited to the following: question and answer, mandated requirements under law, statutes, and regulations, SAU supporting documentation. I provide some of the review. I don't know how large it is. For me, it's extremely small. But
I have my glasses on.
I do want it for people to have the share of confidence that when we started looking at some of the review, it was not just because we were just, we don't know how to function a school. Obviously, whoever's running it right now is a whole different story, but it's not about whether or not we're not trying to run the function. We're not trying to run the school. We're not trying to run teachers. All we're doing is just trying to maximize efficiency and the best interest of the students. And so I made sure that when I started looking at everything, it wasn't just, roles and responsibilities, double checking to see what exactly was mandated, what wasn't. And so I provide a review of what exactly some of the stuff that we used. So the first one, the Advisory Budget Committee proposes cuts to the following: workforce reduction, the elimination of the superintendent position. And now you can see that anybody could have just read it from there, right? Mm-hmm. That's the flow. So the Advisory Budget Committee proposes the elimination of the superintendent position and the consolidation of superintendent roles and responsibilities with high school principal roles and responsibilities in accordance to RSA 194-C:5.
Is this, so my question is this our, like the last one, is that available for public to look at? Because I'm just thinking this is going to be super long, right?
Yes.
But this budget, the recommendation proposal would be available for anyone to go and look at after. I'm just wondering, like,
You mean the
Jesus
PowerPoint?
doesn't have to read through
Oh, no.
everything.
No, in fact, bullets are probably better than.
Right,
those
that's what
walnuts.
I'm thinking.
No, this is so this is for you guys because again,
Okay.
I didn't want. I know for a fact that there's going to be questions.
Yeah.
When I present, I will be summarizing.
Okay, so it's
And
just,
so, yeah, so I'm not
that
gonna be
was my
reading from it.
question.
Okay.
So when I present, I summarize.
Right, so
It's-
that was my question. So
Yeah.
like you can kind of go through them because we
Oh,
we
okay,
know all
absolutely.
this.
So yeah,
That's what I'm
so
saying. This
I
is what
pointed
we've been
out. So
talking
this
about
was
for 3
a
weeks
workforce
now.
reduction. This was the superintendent. I provided the rationale behind it and the sources used.
Perfect.
Here we have the elimination of both psychologists, the rationale behind it, and the supporting statements, including the optional services. I didn't want for people to think that it was just we're eliminating We're not eliminating services. We're eliminating positions, which is very different. The elimination of
On that,
Yes, sir.
You're going to be outsourcing positions, services, rather.
No, sir.
Instead, no. All right. So if we're doing away with the psychologists,
absolutely.
who's gonna do their duties?
Let's assume that you decide to do that, right?
Mhm.
And let's just say that there's an essential need for a child to be assessed, and you're used to having the psychologist do it. The assessment is only once a year. There could be a reevaluate. That's under the law. That's not me. And there could be a reevaluation at the request of the parent if they're not satisfied with the evaluation. If they want another reevaluation, it is at the expense of the parent. And that is, again, that is the law. That is not me. So in this case, I will show you.
Well, I'm told that the only one that can test is a psychologist.
And test for what? Academic performance, psychologist, as you can see. Academic, oh, jeez. Hold on,
I
give
think
me
that's
just a
what
s-
That's
some
the
of this
beginning
is
of that
showing
first.
too, Tom, is that what you're being told is not necessarily
It's not true.
accurate. Well, accurate. It's-
Well, keep in mind,
or it could
So-
could
Just
be
say wool
interpreted
over the eyes.
interpreted differently, maybe.
Wool over the eyes.
So
so
it's kind of
Well, we
that's where.
know what testing, what's.
so here's a table, and this is provided to you, by the way. And so this is qualified personnel to issue out.
Well, they're
the exams.
medical professionals.
No.
They're certified.
No.
The psychologist is a medical.
No, they're not board certified through unless at least not the ones that I see. Are they board certified through the Board of Psychology?
They told me that they're medical professionals.
And who told you this, Tom?
The director of special services there.
The Director of Special Services is
Well,
Kristen T.
Kristen Tebupah.
Okay, special ed director.
so the Special Ed Director says that
She
they
says they're
are
not educators, they're professional medical
medical.
people. That's what she told me.
Yeah, that's something that. So there's 2 licenses. I just want to clarify that before I continue. There's 2 licenses. One is through the Board of Psychologists, and the other one is through the Board of Education. There's 2 licenses. The Board of Education is not through the Board of Psychologists.
Right.
Through the
They're
Board of
not-
Education-
They're not educators, is what she told me.
No, well, no, they're not educators. But what I'm saying is, if you're certified through the Board of Education, you cannot do private practice outside the school. If they cannot do private practice, that means that they're not certified through the Board of Psychologists. And so when you say that they're medical professionals, I think that's something that, because that's seriously misinformation that's been tossed around, and it's causing a lot of the chaos whenever
Well,
we make
that'll
the
be a
proposals.
bonus contention then, because that's what's going to come up.
Yeah, well, at the point of
They'll-
contention, I
they'll
think
be
it's
there.
important. So for this one,
What department will be there and they can.
yeah,
adjust.
absolutely. So this is assessments required in order for them to diagnose specific disabilities, and this will be provided in the PowerPoint. And as you can see, if you look at autism, we even have certified educators. We have guidance counselors, psychologists, school psychologists. There's a reason why they're specializing or they're specifying. There's specifying. There's a reason why they're specifying school psychologists versus psychologists, okay? And so there's a distinction between both. One of them is board certified through the Board of Psychologists. The other one is board certified through the Board of Education, okay? Now here, as you can see, in almost every single one, you have guidance counselor, same one. For adaptive behavior, same thing. You have psychologist, guidance counselor again. You see him again, over and over again. Speech pathologist. Speech pathologist was not up as a recommendation for removal. So if there's misinformation that's being tossed out there, speech pathology was not one of them. We have professional license in healthcare evaluation. That is not the psychologist. That is health. When they have a health condition that causes a disability. When they have, here we have another one again. Here we have the associate school psychologist. It's a license that's no longer being used. Although you can still continue if you already have it. It's been grandfathered. Now it's just school psychology and through the board of psychologists. So, and again, you see again, academic counselor. You take a look at the other one. Here, hearing, none. You see it again. School psychologist, guidance counselor. There's a redundancy of having 2 full-time staff positions, and all this has been delegated further out. And you can keep going.
If it's not truly specialized, it's the same difference, right?
I'm sorry?
If it's not truly specialized, where it's an actual like psychologist that's been licensed through the board of psychology, or you're saying,
Oh no, there's a
Is there a
clear
difference,
distinction.
or-
You
yeah.
just have to meet certain requirements in order for you to be a school psychologist. I'm not trying to downplay them. I'm pretty sure their role is significant. You know, in order for them, I mean, you have to have a master's or a doctorate, whatever it is. You have to meet certain requirements for the Board of Education for you to practice only inside the school.
So does the guidance counselor have to have those same credentials?
Well, whether they have them or not, the law says that they are qualified examiners.
But do they have to have the same credentials as a psychologist?
No, because they're specified differently. It's guidance counselor.
So you could have a bachelor he'd have his bachelor degree, and he'd be a guidance counselor, and he can take the place of somebody with a PhD.
Tom, I think what you're talking about is you may have a preference, but the law does not make a distinction.
Well, I'm asking the question.
Well,
so you could
absolutely.
swap someone with a bachelor's degree and take that PhD out.
Guidance counselors must have, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, unless it's different here in Texas, you need to have a master's degree at
Okay,
least.
So a master's degree.
So I don't know what is required. There's a role and responsibilities. I can check, but in Texas, you need to have a master's. I don't know about here, and the master's usually deals with child development. So it's not something that there's a reason why, because they are qualified examiners according to the law. And so you even, in some areas, you have certified educators who can go ahead and using academic performance. And that's our duty as an educator when we see a child struggling, even despite we do interventions. It's called the responsive intervention. Our job is to ensure that there's a success, whether there's an IEP or a 504 or there's nothing in place. And so we make recommendations for evaluations.
So you could replace a guidance. You could replace an expensive psychologist with an inexpensive guidance.
School psychologists. School psychologists.
Okay.
Don't say psychologist, because when you say psychologist, you're talking about clinical psychologists.
So the ones that we have can't be a psychologist because they
haven't taken a test.
right. Okay.
They have not. I don't know. You may want to ask. They have not, that I'm aware of. Whenever I see a role and responsibility of school psychologists, they have to be board certified, and not just through the board of education for school psychology, but in this case, if they want to practice outside as a psychologist, where you come in and you get to sit down, lean back, and they write down your problems.
I don't think they do that.
Well, I don't know what they do. I can only just assume. But whatever it is that they decide to do, whether it's marriage counseling or whatever it is, a practice outside the school, they cannot do it unless they're certified through the board of psychologists, not through the board of education. The board of education only limits you to just be at the school.
Well, this is contrary to what we've been told.
I agree. I think it's extremely important that moving forward, one recommendation is that the board, if you are told something, I think it's always good to reference it, because at the first meeting that we had, we were told it was mandated, and
Well, the services are mandated.
services are
Right.
mandated. But when I mentioned
I see.
psychologists in particular, they said it was
I mean,
mandated.
what you came across as we were getting rid of the services, that's the way, that's the first thing people think of, but, I mean, those people that were in the audience, but you're gonna have to explain this.
Here we have intelligence. Intelligence, there's a very specific test for intelligence. For that one, you can outsource if it is an intellectual disability. You have specialized people in that specific area that are able to administer it. And so when you look at how many kids would have an intellectual disability, and if that is the case that you want to outsource that testing, all of our kids that are receiving IEPs, there's a variety of conditions that will cause it, whether it's you're on the spectrum or whether it's a social emotional disorder. There's a variety of things, but about more than 80%, they can be performed by guidance counselors. And in many cases, they can
So
also be
the
performed.
intelligence test is only 20% of the students in our, I think that's in the neighborhood of like 150 kids or so. So you're saying only 20%?
We have 150 kids.
They're probably in special ed, yeah.
Well, no, just because you're in special ed, that doesn't
Okay.
mean that you
Well,
have an
that's what I'm
intellectual
asking.
disability.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
I guess
there-
that
yeah.
would be the question to ask the
Yeah.
special education department is how many people are requiring the intelligence test, because that would have to be subbed
Outsourced.
out.
So, okay, so
That would have to be-
so you
But
wanna
all
put
of
that-
these other
you wanna
categories.
Here-
put an asterisk against that one.
So
Yeah,
that-
so-
That's a website that he can't.
But if it's one student, say, because we were told it's
Absolutely.
so small that they'd be identified, right?
Even if, now,
Like
this
the numbers
is,
were so small.
keep in mind that
That's
the
where it's kinda
evaluation,
coming from, and why not outsource that test?
Well, they
to
did
where-
outsource it at one time, and then it wasn't cost effective, so that's why they brought the psychologists in.
well, they brought two.
Well, they brought in two after the COVID, you know.
And that was the service that they wanted to provide to
Well,
the kids.
I know past, they brought one in, they brought him out. They brought him in, this has been back and forth. And, you know, it got to a point where, you know, it was more cost effective to bring one into the school.
But
So
I
you're
guess-
saying,
I guess the question would be then, is it cost effective because we're doing, every one of those categories are all getting tested by the psychologist, when really a very just few percentage of those students
Yeah, I don't know what
need
that-
that
I don't-
psychologist and the rest of them could.
So do you have a
cover.
problem with the
I don't
website?
know.
This is,
I don't
this
have a
is
problem
the,
with the website.
Yeah, no, he's.
okay, well, this
I
is the
have a
New
problem
Hampshire
with
guide,
He's
and it has the same
he's just-
table.
He's just trying to
Yeah,
Oh,
he
okay.
just understand, like,
Oh,
he
yeah.
just kinda talking.
understand
through
what
stuff.
you're saying,
Oh, absolutely.
meld
Okay.
it with what's been
Because if-
said, and
Yeah,
it's all gonna work
I may
out.
ask questions that you're asking.
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. I think it's extremely important that,
Yeah.
first of all, whenever we say, one thing that you saw was the SAIF with asterisks on it.
Yes.
And that could be a great question. That was part of the intellectual assessment. And you could ask, who exactly is part of that specialty? Do we have that person on board? For all you know, it could be it could be the social worker. I don't know. That's not my area of expertise, because I don't test for intellectual disabilities.
That's above my
Yeah.
grade.
So yeah, so I think
Okay,
it's
so I think we kinda
We
get.
get it.
okay.
We get it. Yeah.
Great.
We got it.
Now let's from current. So in this case would be the elimination of both psychology positions, the rationale behind it, the elimination of the physical therapy, and when we look at assessments, the one thing that I saw was the occupational is right on there. They're interchangeable, and so this is mainly for related to motor skills more than anything. Here we have the elimination of the following: one English teacher, one high school English teacher, one high school social studies teacher, and one high school mathematics teacher, with the event that you would have to consolidate classes. If you consolidate classes, you don't have any kids in any, you're going to have a teacher left over in all those three departments. Here we have the elimination of the high school vacancy, high school mathematics vacancy. We did not see the other ones, the other vacancies, which is, I mainly focused on graduation requirements and what was needed. And so here we have the superintendent. secretary, or in this case would be secretaries in conjunction with workforce reduction. So I don't know who has a secretary. I don't know if the payroll has a secretary. And I'm not going to assume, but whoever's associated to those roles, then you would have to either eliminate the positions or repurpose.
I think there's only one at the SAU, right? There's only one secretary.
So
Tessa's special ed,
Yeah, she's special ed. There's only one secretary for all the departments there.
and that's Jocelyn.
yeah, so I don't
So
know.
if it's met,
So the superintendent doesn't have, because it says superintendent
That's
race.
That's
That's,
Jocelyn.
it's right outside her office, but,
Oh, okay.
you know, the business administrator, payroll uses her, special ed uses her, Craig uses her,
Okay.
and the superintendent uses her.
Well, I think that would be a good way to specify. I think rather than having a very specific duty, because at least when we look at really, roles and responsibilities, superintendent secretary is directly to superintendent, not, and so that may be something that maybe perhaps work on a set of duties and responsibilities for clerical, specialized
Well,
for
they
that
like to have
position.
somebody to answer the phone and to greet people when they come in.
So in this
That's
case
why
would be
she's up front.
removing all truancy stipends, removing all mentor stipends in the program. I may add in there because I don't want somebody to say, well, we have a mentor coordinator, and we do. There is a mentor coordinator and there's a mentor stipend. I will be adding the mentor coordinator in there. In this case would be that also removing I don't know how it was written, the website upkeep. I don't know how it was presented to you
I
guys.
thought that was taken off.
Oh no, it was on there.
The website
No,
coordinator.
you guys did discuss it, but we
You
were
took it
talking
off.
about.
Yeah, we
remember-
didn't vote on that one.
Yeah.
Oh.
That was the one because remember it was with the password thing?
Okay.
That was number 19 and we did not vote on it. No vote I have.
So we didn't have a vote
We
today?
did not vote on that one on 19.
Okay.
That was not tabled. It was just we decided that we did away with that one.
So as in they're gonna keep it.
Yes.
Okay.
We did away with the recommendation. And that was to do with the password and all of that discussion.
So there would be a stipend allocated for them.
If that's what's currently in place.
Well, it's not in place. It's being proposed.
No, it's in place.
Well,
No, it's not.
if it's
not
if
in
it's
place.
on the budget, we were looking to get rid of it, and then we decided we took that one away. That was number 19.
So we are gonna propose the stipend then. Not eliminating.
We're not eliminating it, right?
Okay.
Because we did not vote with that.
Okay. So in this case would be the consolidation of the SAU building with the high school. One thing that I also put in there is unless it's feasible or more feasible for them to use another building, I did put it on there. I know it was not part of the vote because I would assume that, if it's not working with the high school, it's not like a make or break deal. It would be something that it would be a building. And so in this case, if it's whether it's geological, features, geographical location, or whether it's population size, or which one is more centralized, whatever they decide, the idea is to consolidate the building. And here I have the proposed budget. In this case will be an overall reduction. Something that we voted on was a reduction on 10%. And I wanted to add something to it, and the rationale behind it would be that it's the taxes. It's ridiculously high for a student population of 880. And then I wrote down a conclusion for it. And in this case, I would summarize the conclusion if that was the case, but you guys are welcome to read it. Would you like for me to read it, or you guys?
I can read it.
Yes, you want me to read?
Too
Oh,
small.
no,
You guys,
I could
yeah,
read.
you guys
Oh,
can read
okay.
them.
Too
Okay.
small.
Oh,
yeah, go for it. What do you got, Jesus?
He can.
I'm going to summarize it for you, Tom.
Okay.
In conclusion,
Bullets.
the budget has to be reduced. Done. There you go. No. Due to the Messina continuing population decline, despite the integration of pre-K, now this is the population after we integrated pre-K, it is important to make a concerted effort to reduce spending. After a detailed evaluation of the proposed budget and supporting documentation provided to the ABC, multiple deficiencies and the lack of transparency has been noted. Overlapping administrative roles and responsibility has caused a chain reaction, inadequate results, as pointed out in previous. Hold on, because if you complain of yours, you have to take a look at mine. Look at that size. Okay, so you have to bear with me. Where was I at?
Audit reports, right?
Results pointed out in previous audit reports. It is the Advisory Budgets Committee's proposal to initiate a workforce reduction effort to consolidate roles and responsibilities. It is also the committee's view that workforce reduction should start with the committee's proposed administrative positions to minimize if it should say maximize. Why did it say minimize? I apologize. I need to make that.
Change
That's
that
why you're
quick.
doing
That's
this
important.
now,
Yeah.
Jesus.
You don't want that on the
To
record.
minimize the impact.
To minimize the impact, the efficiency. Oh, man.
we're going there right now. We've
Yeah,
got
to
this for
maximize
nothing.
efficiency
We've got
and
this
to
for
consolidate class sizes to no less than 18 pupils. Furthermore, it is the committee's view that an additional starting 10%. Why did it say starting? Jesus. That an additional 10% reduction. I'll make sure I'll make a note.
Throw that in there. You got it right there.
Reduction of the overall budget. And in this case, I have to rephrase
Wording.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, in
'cause
areas,
it-
yeah. You just take out the be reduced.
Be in areas of consumables and other strategies such as the integration of the SAU into one of the 3 schools. Obviously, there will be some editing, and there's about 3 slides that we have to have, I think, for the items.
Yeah.
At least 3.
At
Yeah,
least
there's a little
3.
bit more than that.
Okay, 7. I don't mind. You should take a look at my PowerPoints whenever I work in class. They're usually around 42 slides. So, any suggestions other than grammatical?
You're gonna get 42 slides?
No, I don't think so.
That's not 10 minutes, that's a couple hours.
Yeah.
Eh.
Well, I'm going to summarize it. This is something that I think the way I would want for it to be done is that the board would take the slides, have their time to be able to read them, and then, have a presentation not to exceed 10 minutes. Just summarize. This is what we're proposing, and leave the information, because the information might help you with a question per se. So for example, one of the questions that maybe perhaps, Tom would have at the time is the fact that you would say that, well, I was told that, this was mandatory, right? And this is something that he would be able to search up, the New Hampshire Code Administrative, and this is for qualified examiners in that specific area, supporting the rationale of why we decided to omit this. It wasn't just the fact that, we don't like psychologists, we prefer psychiatrists. It was none of that. It was just the fact that we looked at what was essential, and I will tell you right now that if we had no guidance counselors, I would vote to keep them. But because we do have guidance counselors and they can perform the same duties according to the law, the only reason that I heard to keep the psychologist was they perform tests.
Right.
And in this case, you don't perform tests every single year. You perform tests as needed, and it's something that, for the most part, when a student goes into an IEP, into one of those individualized plans, they usually stay in the program till they graduate, and they might get a reevaluation maybe perhaps every 2 or 3 years to see where it stands, to see what the progress is. But it's very specific. It is tailored to the student, tailored to all students. It's not generic. They have goals. those goals are post-secondary as well. And the idea is to support those post-secondary goals. And that was where my concern was. If we were to have, let's say 150 students with IEPs, if we had 150 students at a frequency of, let's say 3 students, per day at a frequency of 20 minutes, the numbers do not add up to have a full-time position open.
Well, the guidance counselors happy. I know at the high school there's at least three DYS referrals every week. So that takes up some time too for the guidance counselor.
And I don't doubt it. I mean, I wish schools would take the same leniency when it came to, whether they wanted to renew a teacher or not, and say, you know what, I know you guys have a lot of work, you guys have a lot of grading. You know what, you didn't do such a great job, but it's okay. Maybe next year we'll do a better job. I wish they would have the same stance with teachers, but they don't, and I've seen it because I've gone through it, where they don't have the same stance, they don't have the same requirements, and we're in a system where everybody's equal when it comes to the responsibilities, and it should not be that teachers could make, say for example, a mistake if they're in class and somebody walks in to do an evaluation and the kids are everywhere because he promised them that on Saturday, they were going to go out to the football game or whatever it was. I don't know when the tournaments are here in Texas. It's Saturdays, but or even if it was a Friday and it's been a long week and it's right before the break, and then you come in and you get a bad evaluation, whatever the case is, teachers do not get the same leniency, and I don't think we should hold anybody in leadership and give them special privileges when you don't do a good job, whether it's in the class or as a school district. It's something that it should be considered to be taught and just across the board.
Well, now when are you going to take questions? Are you going to stop at every?
No.
No.
Well, unless that's what
we
they
only
want.
have 10 minutes, right?
We only have
That
10
doesn't
minutes.
mean you have 10 minutes, but
To present.
but I mean there's
I
always
think-
questions.
I mean, we'll do
Right, so I think we
could
could
present it
present
and
for 10 and then
ask.
questions, and then if your questions go over that 10 minutes,
Right.
then that would be more on
Yeah.
the board.
Correct.
But I would
There's
hate
always a
for us to
question.
get to like a cutoff because we took a couple questions and we don't get to the end of the presentation.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm thinking we do the presentation and then
So
just
where-
like check where you want to ask a question.
So
Does that make sense?
who said in stone the 10 minutes?
Well, it's just about 10
Yeah.
minutes. Like it's
Well,
not
wait.
set.
Yeah,
in
that's
stone.
what they scheduled for.
Right.
But we can do this. Hoping that this is for Tuesday, right?
Monday.
Monday.
Monday's the
Monday.
presentation.
Monday.
Yeah, Monday's a presentation at the school board.
Monday at 6.
You're not
Oh, I
getting
didn't know
stage
what
fright,
that
are you?
is.
You getting stage right now?
Of course I am. I've been in this rodeo before. It's okay. It's so no. One of the things that I'm looking at is I'm hoping to have this out and in everybody's hands, not just here but also with the board. I'm pretty sure Julie and you'll forward it to the rest of the board. And so this is something that you could review, you could look at, you could definitely take down, jot down some notes, any questions, whatever it is. Come on in, do about maybe about a 5-7 minute presentation very quickly. But by then it's already been summarized and digested by you guys at least 24 hours in advance.
So what I would recommend, Jesus, is once you get your final version, send it to Selena for her final review, and then, being she's the board chair, you
Send it
guys
to her.
And
can,
then we'll disperse it.
the
Yeah.
committee chair, and then you can, at that point, because again, checks and balances, whatever, you do it.
Oh, I don't mind
she
sending
makes
it just
She
one-
makes changes or whatever, approves it, and then from that point, then it can be, does that make sense?
Do we need to vote on it? Is it or is this?
It's
Is that
not a
something that we
complete
need to-
It's not
presentation.
gonna,
No, I mean like, but that's what I'm asking. Do we need to vote on the final
we
presentation?
could
Do
on
not?
Monday,
On Monday,
like after
you
we
can
see
just-
it.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying because he wants to send it out early.
Well, not, yeah, but
Yeah, well, this would be
any
for
adjustments will
yeah.
be
So I'm gonna add a
probably,
couple
Yeah.
of things
Yeah.
Yeah.
so you guys can make whatever adjustments it is.
And then,
And then from
Yeah.
there, just, we can present it. It's
Yeah,
something
you're
that I think
they
it's,
can have this copy and then,
Yeah, if there's an adjustment, yeah,
I think
small.
that's fair.
So
Okay.
before we wrap up though,
you guys want me to put any minions or anything to entertain you guys?
no.
No, you could make it less wordy, I think would be better,
But then
that's-
you're gonna have more questions and less answers.
Well, you could give two sets of PowerPoints.
That's
so
true. You
Tom,
can
do
give
you
them
want
this
the one that's
one.
on
No,
one
I want
sheet,
that.
just
I would.
list it all?
I would. In my seat, I would like that one.
Each
But,
suggestion is a bullet.
Yeah.
Well, he's just thinking for the public.
for-
The
yeah.
public
For
will
the
be
public,
there
they're not
to
going to be able to read this.
do,
Yeah,
Oh, the public, yeah.
bring it
They
in,
should.
bullets, you know, like,
You
Right,
can
so
have
have
this.
this.
Well, I would want for the public to have
the background.
the background information and have exactly what you have
Right, so I'm thinking.
as to be transparent, because I think it's
Right.
extremely
Right, so
important.
I
and the
think.
hunger is there from the public. I think they'll take the time to read it.
Right,
really
well,
do.
I think we
I think it's necessary.
keep this as it is right here, right, and that's what's gonna go, does this get posted on the website?
Now, one thing I could do is this.
No?
I mean,
I could
it will
put-
be during the meeting, it will be live streamed.
Okay,
just
then I
like
think we have to
meeting,
keep the
so-
information there.
so
Okay.
So one thing I could do is
Share,
I could
you know.
add
Share the screen, it will be shared.
after the statement or over
Yeah,
here towards
I
the
guess I
conclusion. Despite the conclusion, one thing I could add is I could have the conclusion and a summary at the end of just simple bullet points. This is what was proposed, and maybe perhaps put the page number or the slide number in which they can reference it to. So if people just are coming in with the hunger of telling me that I want to remove services and they want to look at it, they're they're
That's
welcome
the
to.
perception. That was the perception.
I agree, Tom. I think it's important that I don't know. Call me skeptical, but the reality is I've been in education long enough that when I'm told, you have no idea how many times teachers are told, "Hey, it's mandatory. You need to do this."
Yeah.
You have to stay after school and you have to do extra duties and you have to. In Texas, there's a line in our contract that says "and other duties as assigned," and there is no CBA in Texas. And so I've been in there long enough to be able to say that people will take advantage. And I'm not saying that it may be a nefarious reason. It may be just a misconception that they have. But I think it's important.
So I
Okay,
do have
well-
like one question, because one of my original questions was to get the voted on for 22 and 23 as a part of the worksheets, so you have full context, because that helps when you're looking at these types of, all these reports, to see where you started, where you ended.
Oh, there's numbers there. Out there.
Well, it
No.
just has the actual.
It's just had the actuals,
Yeah.
So what
and
was
so
the
this is
proposed
more of like a
budget?
function for you guys, like in looking at these documents, to have the voted amounts for the prior 2 years as well. Cause this is like apples and oranges, there's nothing much to compare, really.
Well, I know
So you
when
want
you.
voted on amounts for the last 2 years, Sean? So-
Yeah, for
So
like
21
those
and
columns,
22?
cause then you can see which lines were under executed, and which ones were over.
It was
The
actually.
22 and 23.
Well,
22
they-
and 23, Jeff?
Yeah.
Thank you.
We just have the actuals, not.
Okay, well,
Oh,
thank
now it
you,
was
Jesus,
voted? Is
for
that what you're saying?
putting that
Yeah.
together.
Absolutely, no
And
problem.
thank you guys all for your work over the last 3 weeks. This has been a lot of time and effort put in, so I want to thank all of you guys and board members.
I hope the effort that we put in.
I think it started a lot of conversations,
Yeah, it did start.
and I think that's where we.
I'm hoping it's been enlightening. It's definitely been an enlightening process, because I can tell you that we do things very differently. I know, and I was told that New Hampshire is unique. I think I'll quote. I think it was Rachel who said a unique animal, and its nature when it comes to politics, I guess, and how you guys run things.
Well,
And so-
I know, being on the board, you have to be very specific on the question you ask, because you're gonna get a very specific answer. It's not gonna be all encompassing. So unless you, you have to nibble around the edges quite a bit before you get, am I lying?
Well, I think, but that's why I think it's important to be able to.
We've seen that with the job descriptions.
Yeah, we've seen that. We've seen that with the job descriptions. That's why
Okay, I'm gonna take,
I would move to adjourn.
thank you.
All in favor, aye.
No, we gotta do a second. We
I'll
need a
second it, yeah.
Okay,
Dan, you seconded?
Yeah.
Okay, meeting adjourned, 7:32.